thing's just held together by duct tape. And we're just, if something goes wrong, Andy and I are over here scrambling, trying to figure it out.
You know, like, I find it kind of like analogous to like, I watch like Haley perform, you know, and she'll get off stage and she'll be like, oh man, like, I messed that part up so badly. And I was like, no one knows. It's like you and like everyone on stage are the only people that know that at all. Like you recover well enough that
You can play it off.
Yeah, no one would have known. And I feel like you're more critical of your own like stuff that you do.
I think that's good though.
I think it can be, yeah.
I think it shows it can definitely be detrimental too, right? You can
Yeah.
go too far where you
Mhm.
just get self-destructive.
Yeah.
But if you use it, I think it can be good.
I think a healthy level of like, you know, self-reflection and like the desire to also be like, you know, I did that. I could be better at it.
Being able to critique yourself.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to do.
I think the hardest part is moderating it. I think it's easy to like go way overboard and just be like, oh, terrible on that, like not making any progress, or just like completely ignore it. I think actually having a healthy relationship with that is like one of the most difficult parts of that whole thing.
That's part of just honing your craft, I guess.
It's not like what this whole age group we're in right now is supposed to be.
Do you feel like we're in that? I feel like we're supposed to be there when we're trying to figure things out, but I think our whole generation is just, I don't know if we're lost or we're still trying to find what we're looking for.
I think like this age range is probably trying to figure stuff out or like get a foothold on it. But I think we're also like too focused on, or like maybe have the idea, or at least I have the idea that like I should be much farther along than I am, right? And then you kind of fall into that social media trap where it's like people will only post, like you don't post always like the really bad things that happen or your failures. Like you post a little like nice tidbit so someone can see it, you know, like, and when you build up that whole, you basically see all this positive stuff, it's easy to look at someone and be like, oh man, they're so successful, they're so like they're doing well, but it's like it's not that, it's just like one part of it, you know.
It's a mind fuck.
Yeah, it is.
You're only seeing the highlights.
Yeah.
For some people, they do post, and I always come back to this, they do post those pictures or the videos of them crying, and that's, it's almost the opposite extreme of, instead of only posting the highlights, you're just reaching for something, you're trying to get some attention,
maybe some like like attention or validation. Like I don't know, I think I have a weird perspective on that, or I would have a hard time being a fair judge of that because I don't post. Like,
welcome to the club.
I don't like it.
You're not a social media guy.
Not really. I'll use it to like look at what people are doing and I'm like, yeah, that's cool, you know, like it can be great, but I go to like post something or I think about it, I'm like, oh, it's not worthy of posting, you know, like that's, but like what is, there's no like guidelines to it. You post whatever you want, but I don't know, just don't share a lot like that.
I'm the same way. If it weren't for the podcast, I wouldn't be on. I would probably still be on the platforms, but I would be a spectator, just watching.
Yeah.
Like I only post through the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
That's,
well, I think it's a cool thing. It's like I think certain formats for everybody have those like pluses and minuses, but when you can find one that lets you, like when you find that format that works, it's like this feels, I wouldn't say like less formal than a post, because like let's be honest, I can post while I'm sitting up, I can curl up on my couch, I could post whatever I want. Like you'd think this would be like a little more formal, but it feels more like a conversation. It's more natural. It's not like I'm trying to come up with some way to like represent myself.
That's my problem. I overthink it. I could sit there on that couch for 4 hours typing and retyping and retyping and never post anything.
Dude, I found within the last year, like as much as I enjoy like having time alone, like I really do, I can get kind of burnt out when I'm around too many people sometimes. I do better when I have someone there to like kind of reference against, you know, like I moved in with Haley back in June, and just having someone in the house to like throw ideas off of and kind of, I don't know. I think having someone else near you, or at least near me, like makes it easier for me to understand like who I am by comparison. If it's just me, it's kind of hard. You kind of lose that, like, I don't know. I feel like I kind of lose that like sense. It's hard to describe.
You lose touch with reality in a weird way. I felt that way back towards the beginning of COVID. I wasn't going out. I wasn't seeing anybody.
Yeah.
And you can kind of go down this rabbit hole and you don't know what's not necessarily what's real, but you don't have anyone to bounce these ideas off of. Say, hey, is this crazy?
Yeah.
What about this idea? How do we feel about that?
Right now?
Am I spiraling? What is this? Is this what that feels like?
I can't be spiraling. No, I'm great.
I've got it figured out.
Yeah.
I've got all these answers.
You ever see Always Sunny? It's Always Sunny. And Charlie with like the little red strings. He has like
is that Always Sunny in Philadelphia? Yeah. I've never seen that.
Yeah, I've seen bits and pieces, but I see it commonly used on like Twitter as like a reaction where there's like Charlie has like the poster board of like all these pictures, and he has the red strings drawn between him, and he's like proving how everything's connected. He's just kind of crazy. Like, I know everything that's happening.
That's how I felt.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can slip into that. I've noticed that with myself where, because I do enjoy time alone. That is a self-reflective time for me.
Yeah.
But you can almost go too dark with that, or not too dark, but too deep, where you're just self-reflective, and it becomes this detrimental point where you're just digging into yourself.
And I'm a big fan of that. Like, I don't think being alone means you have to be lonely. I think like more people would probably benefit if they were better at like just spending time on their own or being more content with yourself. But it very quickly becomes too much.
I think that's a hard thing. I don't know if that's for our generation or it's always been like that, but being able to sit with yourself and with your own thoughts and not have the social media coming in, not have other inputs coming in, just being able to sit in silence. That's a hard thing to do nowadays.
Dude, I have like kind of an extrapolation of this conversation with patients. So I work with like every day I'll see a variety of people, right? Like usually,
Yeah, we do have, by the way.
I might say. Kind of like all ages, right? So in the same hour, I'll work with someone that's like 75 and someone that's like 10, right? Like, so it's kind of hard finding that, like, I don't always get to work with someone that's my own age. So you can talk about like what your experience is growing up, but it's not really like understood fully. I have this conversation where it's like, I think our age range had a very interesting relationship with technology. Like you and I started getting older right as the internet exploded and became, what it is, but it was like so free and like unmoderated. Like, how do you think that's affected us as we've gotten older, right? Just like that access to it, not knowing what any of it was. And it's just like this thing that kind of like inevitably shaped like where we're at and how we are today, I think.
It was so new, right? Nobody had seen it before.
Yeah.
I can remember I created a Facebook account, I think in 6th grade, and hiding that from my parents and going on.
I got in so much trouble for doing that same thing.
Me too.
I got grounded for that.
And I think that sums up our my parents didn't even know what Facebook was back then.
Mine did. That was the thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
They did not. My parents are on it. Well, my mom's on it now, but I don't think we realized what that meant when we had access to that.
No,
because we went from I think we were the last generation that still rode bikes, played outside, did these things with friends without phones, and then we got hit with it.
I think ours is the first where like we, my boss and I talked to like a couple. We've had like a few more younger people, like athletes like coming through the clinic recently, and I don't remember how we got on the discussion, but we were asking like, when did you get your first phone? Right. So I got mine in middle school, like 7th grade. I think like Christmas of 7th grade, I got my first phone. What about you?
I got mine at graduation day of 6th grade, so that I could reach out to friends.
So that like, like approaching middle school or like in middle school, and like all the kids kind of said the same thing, like, oh, like 7th, 6th grade. And then the adults in the room were just like, what? You had a phone at that age? But then when we were like, no, it's like, it was good to communicate. Like, I need to be picked up. Like, how many times did you know of a kid that like their parents forgot to pick them up from school?
Me.
Yeah.
I've had that happen.
My grandpa would forget to do that every once in a while.
Yeah. I got left at soccer practice one time, and all the kids were coming out, and they were like, Nick, do you need a ride? I said, no, my parents are coming. Everybody's gone. I started walking home. Then my dad found me like halfway between the house and the soccer field. Like, I was coming. And I was
like, well, how am I supposed to know that?
Yeah, I didn't have a phone.
I think like in those situations, you can find ways that it's a good thing. But like, I don't know. I've always been kind of like, people are going to do what they want to do. Like I think experience comes from like trying the things out and learning. But it's like as we get older, it's hard to see like the ramifications of, what we saw, and like, how easy it was to find some stuff that was just like horrifying. It's crazy.
You had access to everything.
Like
Literally everything.
everything.
Porn, dead bodies, whatever you
Yeah.
could think of, which kids are wild. I think we can acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Little kids
Of
are
course.
psychotic. And to give them access to literally all human information.
I don't know, man. I think it led, like as a teen, I think it led to like a certain level of like coldness or like apathy. It's like you saw this harsh stuff, and we grew up, like 9/11 happened when we were kids, like all of these like historical events happened and have continued to happen, where it's just, I think it's easy for a lot of kids to just disconnect and be like, yeah, whatever. Like, that's just how it is. That's the world.
I worry about that with the
Mhm.
younger generation, as they
Yeah.
seem very detached from previous events, from the
Yeah.
country as a whole. Just
In some ways,
detached.
though, like I do think that as we get younger, like I don't remember where I was reading this. It was either on like, I think it was like a thread on Reddit or something, but there was a teacher talking about their experience of how like a lot of their younger students are generally more empathetic with each other and like more willing to work cohesively and kind of be willing to learn about each other. But I do see the like, lack of, or like, apathy towards like a country, like a larger entity. But like when it comes down to like the person level, it seems like they're a little bit more close. They're a little bit more likely to not like insult you. Like, I've watched these words that we said as kids and like heard all the time that were common, like in the early 2000s. No one says them anymore. Like people are moving towards this like understanding of like, yeah, well, doesn't bug me, but like it sure as hell bothers you. So I guess I can go without like saying that, I don't know.
There is that drum of progress that plays, and it's been kind of amplified through social media. Because now everybody,
Hmm.
these ideas, if people decide something is wrong, you can push that out there.
Yeah. I think it's led to, I think it's easy to fall into that mindset, at least for myself, of being like, oh yeah, man, that was wrong, like, but how often, like when you were a kid, like you made a mistake for something, like the biggest thing isn't just having this like perfect success rate where you never mess up, you never say anything wrong. The bigger thing is like recognizing when you've done that and being like, okay, cool, like sorry, I messed up, and then moving forward. Like if you don't allow people to have that time to like figure that out and learn, you're gonna just like ostracize these people just by being like, no, you said the thing that you didn't know you shouldn't say. Like it's kind
Do you
of
feel
crazy.
like that's happening today?
I feel like that can be part of what's happening. It's kind of like a hive mind sort of thing, but, and not to like invalidate it, any of that. I think it can be good, but I think some people like, if you don't have as much like life experience and like actually seeing people day to day, nothing is ever that black and white. That's the easy way to think about it, is like they're right, I'm wrong, or vice versa. Not like, well, they're a little bit right and they're kind of wrong. Like that's harder. That takes more effort to think about. And it conceding like, oh, I don't like you, but you're right on that. Like
That's a hard thing to do.
it is. That's the sign of like growing up though.
I think it's difficult, and it's probably tied to social media in some way, in that we don't really allow people that room to grow anymore. We
Hmm.
just, because everything happens so fast and we move so fast, we expect people to be able to just change their opinions and change their ideas. And if you're told something is wrong, you need to immediately jump to that
Yeah.
and hit that bar.
Like, I don't know. It's hard. And I work with a lot of older people, So I work with a lot of people where it's like, obviously there's some that are a little more progressive and are like kind of like, yeah, the young kids, like they'll figure it out, they know what they're doing, and some that are just like, none of you kids want to work, you guys are all lazy, like da 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 da, as I'm like helping them like
Like, I'm right here.
work
What
on,
do you
I'm
think is
like, I'm right
happening?
here, man, like it. I think working with a lot of people far older than me has like made it easier to keep that perspective of like, these people had a completely different life than I did, completely different upbringing. So it's easy to understand why they might feel that way about something and just kind of letting that ride instead of like trying to lecture this person on how they should be on something. It's like, come on, it's not my place to do that all the time.
I think that's the perspective we should all have.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to the older generation. You don't want to
Mhm.
make allowances in the sense that you try to justify the actions, but we're going to browbeat somebody who's 70 for
No,
thinking some type of way or doing something that we
No.
might not do.
like I'm always like a path of least resistance when it comes to people, right? It's like I can go to someone and I know I could have like a fight 3 hours over something. Pick your battles. Like I don't have the energy to like do that with everybody.
It's hard to maintain that though.
There's those times
There are
where
those
it's,
moments when you get pushed a little bit and
it's
then
like, I have something I could say, but then it's just like, nope, it's not worth it. It's like, I think had a lot of moments like that where it's like in the moment you want to say that thing, you want to have that last like, I got you.
stick that knife in just a
But
little
then
deeper.
it's just like, I've always regretted doing that. I've never regretted like kind of pulling back a little bit and just, no, that's fine. Not my place right now.
That's a sign of maturity, is being able to walk away like that and take those moments and not necessarily swallow your pride, but acknowledge it's just not a fight that's worth fighting.
Pride's something that, I think is kind of at the center of a lot of that behavior, or at least your reaction to it, right? So that little touch where it's like, oh, that's part of who I am, like a little defensive, but I don't know, realizing that not everything's personal. That's something that was really hard for me to learn.
How did you learn that? Was that just a repeated practice?
It's something I'm still learning.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, there's people that come in and they're, upset about a scheduling issue or upset about something, and it's nobody's fault really, or still feel bad. I'm just like, I'm sorry that happened. Like, I wish I could have been better at that. But it's just the repeated exposure to it of like, you're not mad at me. You're mad at this situation, and I'm just in front of you. And like when you can either help them realize that, or you can just understand that dynamic in your head, that helps, I think. But there's still some times where I take that home with me and I'm just like, man, I'm mad that happened, or like I feel bad about that, but it's not my fault all the time,
And sometimes people just want a punching bag and they can't separate that you're not the person who messed up the scheduling, or it was an accident, or it happened for whatever reason. They just want to lash out.
There's some people that want to fight, and I'm not that kind of person. I don't get anything out of it. I don't get like whatever satisfaction they might. Maybe it's like wanting to be right.
I've been there. That's a problem I still struggle with, especially if I'm convinced that I know something. To succumb to the idea, yeah, that's a hard one. To take a step back and say, okay, either agree to disagree, or I'm hearing your points. Maybe I need to reflect on my own.
I think just admitting when it comes to a topic that, like, you know what? I honestly don't know anything about that. I don't know enough to be as like serious about it as I am. Let that one roll off, Being able to do that is something I've noticed as I've gotten a little older. Is like it's gotten slightly easier, but there's still those times.
There are those moments.
Yep.
There are those moments when something or someone just presses a button and you're thinking, okay, I'm gonna let this one. I'm gonna take this bite.
Depending on who I'm with, like, and how much alcohol has been shared between us, there's those times where it's just like, no, I'm right about this. Like, you kind of double down, but I feel like in those moments, depending on who you're with, it's not as serious. It's, I don't know, you just like kind of play on the moment a little bit.
Yeah, you can play it off if you're with your friends.
Yeah.
And you guys are arguing about something
in quotes, right?
Quotes.
Like,
yeah, it's not that serious.
There's nothing on the line there.
Yeah, because you guys know. I think that's the biggest takeaway. Is you guys know the other person. You know that you're not a bad person. It's not that out of spite or out of malice. You guys are friends. You know that their intentions are right.
And being with a friend is, like being like, I think truly friends with someone is knowing that like, yeah, I think most of the time, like, you and I agree on stuff. And I think I trust your moral compass is like, I trust that you know what you're doing. And then also recognizing that like your friends have the capacity to do things that you don't like and do things that you would look at as bad. And that like in their eyes, you're just as likely to do the same thing. And part of that is not like I had this thing where, it's your friend, and it's like you put them on this pedestal of like, I like you a lot, and I put these like qualities on you that may not be there. Like, oh, I think you're much smarter than I am. Like, I think, you always know what you're doing. And I think people do that with celebrities too. But it's like, they're a human. They're going to make mistakes. And it's recognizing your position as a friend. Be like, yeah, that wasn't good. What are you going to do?
The celebrity one is a weird one.
Yeah.
Because you don't even know the person.
I've never understood it.
I don't get it.
Never understood it.
And people will ride for them, and you've never met the person. I could understand if it was a separated friend and you knew them at one point in time and you're trusting them because of how you knew them, but for a celebrity you never met.
That's one that trips me out to this day. Like, I get it, like you get something. I've had to start looking at it as like, it's just not my form of entertainment. And if it's yours, like, cool, whatever, like I'm not going to judge you for that. But I do find that like, you see people like upset when like a celebrity couple breaks up, or they're like offended by something that they did that isn't like an outward thing, like they tweeted something awful, like insulting you. It's like they had like a disagreement with another one of their friends and you're offended by that. And it's like, dude,
why?
They do not know that you exist.
Yeah, they don't really care about your opinion.
It's like, how dare you make that decision? It's like, dude, they don't know you. Like, they're just living their life. Like, I've never understood it.
It ties back into the idea of that pedestal. We're constantly doing that. I don't know if that's just human nature or society that we're now a part of.
Yeah.
But your inclination is to see someone that you think is at a different place and you are, or a better place, and you put them on that pedestal.
I don't know how empirical it is. I remember reading an article, probably when we were in high school, I think, or sometime around that time. It was like, people, if you find someone attractive, you are more likely to like also view them under that positive light, right? Like, you see someone attractive and you're like, oh, I bet you're also smart. I bet you're also a really kind person. And I bet you're very successful based off of that one like positive trait that you notice. I catch myself doing that a lot.
Even for strangers?
Yeah, I still catch myself doing that. It's something I did all throughout high school. It's like, you see the popular kid and I'm like, man, I bet they're doing everything right, And it's, as you get older, you understand that's not quite the case, but I still catch myself in that moment every once in a while. It's hard.
It's hard to pull out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why we slip into that. Even when we recognize it, we can still slip into that.
Yeah.
Which is the weird part.
It doesn't get easier. Well, I mean,
it does and it doesn't.
Yeah.
You can recognize things more when you have a little more experience, but
recognizing something and knowing how to fix that situation are two very different things. It's like, I can be as self-aware as I want, but that doesn't change anything. You just understand what you're doing,
Which is almost worse. Then you're recognizing all these mistakes and you're not changing anything.
Yeah.
Then it's just a cycle.
That was a thought process for quite a long time.
Was being in a cycle?
Yeah, of just like thinking that self-awareness is equivalent to like fixing problems. It's like, oh, but I understand why I do these things. Like, I'm thinking that that's like the key to it. And it's like, not really. It's just like, you can know, it's like, what you're supposed to do, but doing it is the thing that's going to help. So it's like crossing that kind of like threshold. I know I should go study. I know I should be like preparing for this. I know I should do something else. But if I don't do it, then, what am I getting out of it?
And that's where it gets frustrating. You're not seeing the progress. You're recognizing the problem. You're not implementing anything to address the problem.
Yep.
And it's not changing.
Shocker.
Yeah. How crazy is that? I'm sure you run across that a lot with the gym, where your working PT is, you're saying, hey, we need to eat this way, we need to do these things, or work these movements.
And in like the clinic, that's not something we really get into. The nutrition side of things is like, even, having studied what I did, like, you lightly touch on nutrition. That's like a whole ballpark where I don't know a whole lot. I know like anecdotal stuff that I've heard from sources that I like, but I don't get into that. I do see that in terms of like wanting something to be fixed physically, but not understanding that like there is a lot of time and effort that goes into that. And that's like like selling people on that idea, I think it can be a very hard thing. Some people come in knowing that and are like, yeah, it's going to hurt, but I'm stubborn and I'm going to fix it. People need a little more coaching as to like, yeah, this stuff works, like try it. And then some people are just like, no, nothing you're going to do is going to help me. This is just like this is just, like a segue to the next step in terms of fixing the problem. So it's hard. Like, you feel like you want to just make it right. You just want to fix that thing. The thought that's kept kind of like circling back to me is like, you're not going to fix someone yourself. Like, you're giving someone the tools, whether it be like knowledge, information, confidence, like you're giving them the tools that they need to fix themselves. You're giving them the equipment they need to figure this problem out on their own. Because 90% of what they do in that recovery is not with us. It's at home or wherever they do it. So I don't know. It's like letting go of that, like, I will make something better, and being like, no, I'm here to show you how to do that yourself.
Is that the hardest part? Is knowing, I know how we can fix this. It's just going to take time, and you have to actually do the exercises.
In a sense, yeah. And I mean, obviously, there's so many things. Like I still have to go to school to be in that physical therapist position. I'm not there yet. I'm just an aide to one. But you tend to see these like behavioral patterns, and it's like, man, like, I know you could do so much better. Like, you see them working and it's like, you're good at that. Like, you could do so much more. But just because you see that in someone doesn't mean they want that. And that is like a hard thing. It's like, I want to see people be the best that they can be. I want everyone around me to be the best they can be. But you can't force that to happen. Just in the same way that you can't, like, someone's not going to force you to do something you don't want to do.
There's that quote, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
It's what rings around in my head all the time.
All the time. No matter how bad you want to help somebody, they have to want to help themselves.
There was a show, that's where I got the, like, that quote from. I don't remember what it was, but it was like, no, I'm not helping you. I'm helping you help yourself. Like, that kind of attitude of like, in the end, it's your own effort. In the end, it's your desire to do something. I can't make you have that.
You can't put that into somebody.
Mm-mm. Not if they don't want it. And that's fine. And you have to just let that one roll off and be like, okay, focus instead on the person in front of you.
Do a lot of people come in with that perspective? Because these are people that normally have some injury, right? And are trying to rehab that.
Yeah, that in general, that's the reason. So, you have to show like, yeah, this thing hurts, whatever it may be. There's acute injuries like, oh, someone really messed up their ankle. We get a lot of breaks, like someone comes in with a fractured ankle, or, a lot of surgical patients, coming off of surgery. Obviously, you need a lot of care to make sure that recovery process is good. So you really get like a mixed bag. And being in a somewhat rural area like we are, you see kind of everything. Fortuna was a lot of ranchers. So the clinic is like kind of a representation of the area you're in, because you get that, like, you're drawing from the community. That's where people are coming from, you get all kinds of different people, but that variety is fun. You have the people that are just like, man, it's hard. I have to kind of like think of like, how am I going to try and change your outlook on this today? And then there's some people that come in and it's just like, this is going to be a relatively relaxed period. It's like, I'm watching someone that I know is progressing well.
They're coming here to work.
Yeah. And it's, I love the people that come in and want to work and really want to better themselves, and that relationship is good, but you can't just have that. I think there's a lot of learning to be done from people that don't see it the same way as you. And that is like, I don't know. I think you learn from the conflict. I don't think you necessarily learn when things are really easy. And I think finding ways to get someone to understand, or finding ways to like change how I'm going to say something, or, or even changing my own outlook on something, like, is something you have to be open to. But I think it lets you, like, everyone that comes in is an opportunity to learn. Whether it's about people, something we talk about, or like what I do for a living. So being open to that, I think, is kind of makes that easier.
Well, you have a very healthy perspective about it.
Yeah, I mean, easy to say. Like
harder to practice.
Yeah. I love people. I really do. There's some days where it's like, man, just like working in front of a screen would be easier than what I'm doing right this moment. It sounds so nice. But the moments that are good are so good that it gets rid of that for me. That it's like, man, it's kind of a unique profession in the sense that you'll see a doctor for a follow-up every once in a while and they're just like, all right, yeah, it looks good, or gotta try this, whatever. We work with people, let's say the average prescription is like 8 to 12 sessions, usually 16 being for like some surgeries and things like that. See people on average, let's say like 5 to 8 times. That's 45 minutes, anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour a session. Spending a couple hours with people, and like when you see them walk out and like you show them, like you get like a final comparison of the numbers at the end when they're ready to work on this fully at home, and you see just like how much progression they've had. It's a beautiful thing. That's what I do that for, because it's like, man, you see someone able to do the things they want to do again. That's the cool part. We had a patient a while back. He was seeing us just like general deconditioning and like balance, and at the end of it, his last appointment, I'm talking to him, sweet older gentleman, and he goes, since I started doing this and like working on this, I have not once fallen, and I haven't even gotten close to falling. And that peace of mind is something I can't pay for. And that was like, damn, that stuck with me, Like just teaching someone that, or just like giving that to someone, is a cool thing.
Is that the standard for a lot of the older people that are coming in, is a fall?
I mean, balance is like exercising, right? It's a use it or lose it thing. And if you don't work on it, like obviously it's easier for us to maintain as when we're younger, right? Like you don't think about it. And then one day you're like, until you challenge it, you're like, man, I can't do that. Like stand on one foot, like, man, I can't do that anymore, So yeah, there's that part of it, but not all of the older people that come in are fall risks, or, a lot of them aren't. It really depends on what you're getting sent to us for. A lot of people are chronic pain. That's a common one.
That scares me. Especially, where we lift, that's the thing that you hear about the most, is these injuries that just come from the repetition of it, or not using the correct form, or blowing out your shoulder trying to bench and hit a PR.
Yeah, I think about that a lot when I'm in the gym and I see people and I'm like, I'm never going to be the person that comes up and gives unsolicited advice. I've done it one time. I saw a younger kid doing an exercise. I think he was trying to do like a bent over row with dumbbells, and it just like, I was like, you're going to hurt yourself quickly doing that. And I just told him a couple things and tried it. And that's the one time I've done that. I won't go up to anyone. I don't feel like it's my place to. No one's going to enjoy that. Like, hey, you're doing this wrong. And it's obviously how you approach it, right? But I can't do it.
Even in just the nature of approaching it, right? That's the hardest part. Is you just don't want to make somebody feel uncomfortable. And sometimes that's at the expense of, hey, I've got some advice. Like, I know what I'm talking about. I could help correct that form for you.
You never want to come off that way. It's hard. It's like, oh, if I could just, no, I don't know if that's the wrong way to look at it, but I don't know. I feel worse just like intruding on that situation, and a lot of people probably wouldn't receive it well, and that's fine.
Yeah. I don't know how people would receive it, right? Because you just don't want to be the guy that makes somebody feel uncomfortable in the gym. Yeah. That's the biggest thing.
That's the last thing I want to do.
Yeah, everybody's in there just to work out, and I don't know about you, but when I go into the gym, I rarely even talk to people. I'll talk to you, I'll say hi.
Yeah, we'll say what's up.
I'll say what's up and keep it moving. Yeah. That's my thing.
You and I literally every time have just been like, fist bump, what's up? How you doing?
Yeah.
Cool. Straight back to whatever.
Because you run into that. There's always that one person in there that you say hi to, and then they want to talk for an hour. Shit. And your workout is gone. It's like, oh, now I don't have time to work out because we just
Yeah.
BS for 45 minutes.
There's times where I enjoy that, but that doesn't tend to be a place where I enjoy that happening. And especially now, it's like I'm usually working after I get off work. Like I make it to the gym around 7 o'clock at night. It's like I have other stuff to do, working and going to school. Like I have other stuff to do before I go to bed, and then I have to be at work in the morning again anyway. So it's like this is my one time I have to do this.
Yeah, that's my MO. It's just lock focus.
Yeah,
we're gonna go in here. We're gonna throw some weight around, and then we're gonna get out.
Yeah, I try to, but I don't know. I was working out with like you mentioned with my little brother a lot, and it's hard not having that anymore.
Is he not around anymore?
No, he is. So
okay.
he's 16, so he's still going to be here for a while. But I moved out, and not having, and our schedules are different. So like he gets out of class earlier than I do. So I wouldn't ask him to wait until like 6 o'clock at night, 6:30 at night to come work out with me. He's going to work out like right after he gets off class. It's lighter, it's better for him. That's fine. He's actually way more consistent in the gym than I am right now. I have lifted I can count on two hands the number of times I've lifted in the last 2 months, month and a half. But not having that person there, depending on a ride to go to the gym, or just having them with you is so hard. You don't have, it's it was a source of motivation for me. It's if I don't go to the gym, this guy can't go either. I have to nut up and go. And now it's it's easy to just go, tomorrow.
It's too easy to brush it off.
It is.
I'll make up for it tomorrow.
And
do some extra cardio. I'll do this.
That's even after getting out of that slump for probably 3-4 years where I wasn't really working out ever. When I transferred to SF State, they just built a new multi-million-dollar gym. I used it twice in my time there. That thing was incredible. And now I come back here and I'm just I should have used that gym so much more, man. It was so good.
All nice new equipment.
It was so good. 2 stories. It was so good. And I don't know. I've been catching myself falling back into that behavior recently of just focusing on all the stuff I have to be doing and kind of neglecting the gym again.
Well, life catches up.
Yeah.
And it's that weird thing of you just get drained throughout your day, and then the idea of going and, lifting heavy. Thank you. Oh, could you snag me a beer, actually? I gotta take my headphones off. I'm getting some weird feedback. We're having some tech issues today. You can take them off if you want, or you can wear them.
Cool. I'm
getting some weird feedback on mine for some reason. Did you? I didn't know that you didn't get into lifting. I would have guessed back when you were playing football for the high school.
Yeah, I did. And play is a relative term. On the team, right? Is the joke. But yeah, I started working out, end of sophomore year. I was on the team junior and senior year and lifted on my own, albeit very poorly, not much knowledge of how to do it. And I continued for a couple months after, and it slowly tapered off, it's not one day you just stop. It's okay, this week I worked out 5 times, and then next week it's 4, and then it holds at 4, and then it's 3 and 2, and then it's you just don't. And that happened, and I didn't really start working out again until, I wasn't even really working out last December. December of, it would have been 2020. I finally was man, I got to start tracking what I eat again. And I don't track anymore, but at the time I was okay, I got to start something, right? Started tracking, and then started doing at-home workouts, based off Instagram, people I followed, and I was okay, I can get back into it. And Dylan and I were just crushing the at-home workouts all the time, and it was kind of a fun period, to be honest. Just the COVID home workouts, whatever. And then I don't remember if it was Haley's friend that decided to do it or her roommate, but they started the 75 hard, and so I did that with her, and that was some incredible motivation. I think having a set, it was almost like a game. It was I have this that I have to do every single day. And it was almost that exterior or external motivation of well, she's doing it, so I have to be doing it too. That was awesome. It was rough. There was a couple days I, obviously didn't do the whole thing perfectly, but I by the end of it, I was the lightest I had been since my sophomore year of high school. I've always been a little bit bigger, always kind of chubby, never really in shape. And yeah, that was like fun, and I maintained it, but slowly stopped. Again, it's easy, man.
It's helpful having somebody to work out with,
Mm-hmm.
and having someone to kind of depend on you in that way or to push you in that
Yeah,
way. I would work out with. You were talking about my sister working out in the morning.
yeah,
We periodically over the years, when we've lived together or lived around each other, have worked out together, and it's fun because she's kind of the same way that we are, where she'll work out, but like we're not talking throughout the whole thing or
yeah.
trying to get in between sets. She'll do her thing, I'll do my
Mm-hmm.
thing, but we're working out together,
Yeah,
and just having that is cool. Just knowing, okay, I'm gonna go hit the gym. She's gonna be there too. We're gonna work out. This is what we're doing.
it doesn't even have to be together. It's just like knowing you have that person there, I think, is enough of a motivator for some people. No, Dylan and I definitely talk more. Like when we work out, we'll bullshit while we're lifting, whatever. Like we try not to let it get in the way of what we're doing at all. But there's some times where it's like, okay, we talked a little too much. Like, come on, like, get back into it. Go finish your lift. It's your set. Like, I don't know. I miss it. It was like the little camaraderie. It was fun, and seeing him like pick up on this skill and like lifestyle and not like obsessing over. Like that was my big fear when I started doing this with him. Was like I made sure like when he was talking to me about content creators he was watching, because the fitness industry on social media is one of the most like bastardized, like so full of misinformation because it's a really trendy thing right now, and I think that's a good thing. I think like a focus towards like your own health is a wonderful thing, but like any other kind of like craze, not even really craze, but like kind of a trend there's so many people capitalizing on it, and there's so many like kids and teenagers that are watching this that like don't know who's telling the truth, that don't know like what kind of like credentials to look out for. A lot of it, like the stuff that sounds good is bullshit. The stuff that's like kind of boring is usually true. you know that's the hard thing to convince people of, for sure.
And like you said, that community has exploded on social media. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know why. I don't know how that. I don't know if it's a backlash from COVID, but
In part.
it's gotten huge. The
Yeah.
Instagram fitness
Yeah.
inspiration people.
Yeah, Gymshark is, I think Gymshark is actually a good example of that. I had to write I had to do like a market, like a marketing assignment for, oh, it was one of the kinesiology courses I took, but it was like introduction to like sports and business management. So like how being in the athletic industry can be turned into a job, or like, like facility management, or just like looking at companies that market towards like that population in general. Gymshark had one of the like best marketing campaigns out of any company, and I think that's a lot of it. They like kind of pushed the colorways. They pushed like athletic gear that looked really good on people, and I think that is an attractive thing to sell. That is like, look, our stuff is synonymous with this dude that is just like
Just shredded.
shredded. So part of what I had to do with Dylan was be like, yeah, these guys look really good, and obviously they work very hard. And I don't say this to like pick on anyone that does decide, to use gear, or to, which like I don't care. Like do whatever the hell you want. There was a stand-up comedian I saw one time that was like, I think there should be a second Olympics for people that are just like juiced to the absolute gills, just to see like what they could do. And I think that would be hilarious, right? Just be honest about it. And I had to tell him, like, most of these people, like, they do use gear. They also have, like, this is their lifestyle. They dedicate 7 days a week to this because they get paid to do that. So temper your expectations. Like, not everyone is going to look like that. But it's not as easy as they make it seem to be either.
Yeah. Was that hard to do with him?
Not really.
No, he's got his head on pretty straight.
He's always been a really, like it blows me away talking with him sometimes, just like the emotional maturity that he has at his age compared to like how I thought of myself at 16. He's like he's doing some good stuff. Like not only is he like working hard in school, like exploring like the medical sciences and like going to these events like in the summer to check that shit out. Like, he's good with people, and that's something. It's like, it's cool you have like the ability to be smart and the ability to like work on these things, but the fact that you have such a like wholesome understanding of people and like care about people is what's gonna get you there. You know,
It's an underrated value.
it's not as productive in most scenarios.
Yeah. You can't quantify it as well as you can your ability to memorize
Not in
this
every
book.
field. Not in every field. I think you can get away with less compassion and less like human understanding in a lot of fields, but it's very obvious to the person you're talking to. Like,
The gear trend is interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, 90% of the people, no, I shouldn't say that, but you see a lot of people on Instagram especially, and there's just this weird attitude around it of we're not going to say. We're going to keep this kind of under wraps. Like, why? Why not just say, hey, I work out, I bust my ass. I don't think it takes away from the work you're doing in the gym.
I could sit here and blast, however much I wanted to. And if I don't do anything, I'm not going to look yoked. I'm not going to look that good. I'll probably lose some fat just as like a byproduct. I might look a little better, but all I'm going to end up with is a wicked anger problem and like not a better body, depending on what kind of like substances you mix, like it's all different. But like, they have to work really hard to get that, and that's fine. I don't think it should be as like stigmatized, or at least they think it is, I don't care. I also don't understand like a lot of the pride in being like natty. Like, sure, cool, that's fine. If it's something you want to do, go for it. But if it's not in a competition where that's not allowed, I don't understand the like the holier than thou, like, oh well, I've never used it. Like, cool, good for you. Do you want like a
medal for that?
Do you want a medal for that?
Yeah.
Like,
I think that's the exact attitude that it is. The holier than thou.
Yeah.
I've got this badge. Oh, that guy looks like that because he's on gear. I put in the real work. Yeah.
That's for sure a cop-out.
It's a way to just diminish the other person.
100% of just like, it's easy to be bitter. It really is.
And that's the inclination, is to be bitter.
Yeah. You got something that I want, and yeah, you did this thing that makes it easier, but like, I'm going to not think of anything that I'm not doing that I could be, and I'm instead just going to pin it all on that. And that makes me feel better. It's crazy.
And it's a good bump to your ego. If you're not where you want to be and you see someone that is, you can kind of pull them back down to your level by saying, this guy, he didn't really work that hard. Mm-hmm. He's just, he's in the bathroom shooting up every week. So
it's easy to think about. Yeah. It really is. Because it makes you feel so good. It makes you feel so like accomplished.
It gives you a cop out.
Yeah. It, I don't know. It just never like bothered me. I don't care. I don't care like how successful you are in that regard. How are you like if you're talking to someone like that's, I don't know, the one thing about people that like tends to stand out to me the most, or I think matter to me most, is like, how do you treat other people? Like, there's a lot of people like we went to school with that are like, yeah, I'm cool with them. I never had an issue with them. But you can just see how people interact with other people, and it's like, I don't like how you treated a lot of people. You were never mean to me. That doesn't mean I don't know. It's weird. Like, I have that relationship with a bunch of people. It's like, yeah, we were cool. But I didn't like how they talked to anyone. I think they were like awful to a lot of people, It's weird to think about.
Yeah. Yeah, it falls back on them. Well, they didn't do it to me, so why should I? They were always cool with me. I never had a problem with them. Yeah, they might have been an asshole to this person, but
yeah, I think that one gets me. Is like, I don't know. Like, yeah, I get that, and I don't know why you were. I don't know the whole situation, but I just noticed that. It's like, okay, so I'm not gonna like hold it against you or anything, but I remember that. I saw that.
Well, it's something to be aware of.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's what I mean.
You can tell a lot from a person by the way they treat other people, and especially people that they think are below them.
Yeah.
You can get a real sense of who somebody is. Mm-hmm. Not to say they can't change. I think high school is an interesting...
It's a...
Interesting field. Because I don't think anybody in high school really knows who they are.
And I don't look at like any of the people like that and think like, oh, they're probably the same person.
Oh yeah,
you know,
no.
like I'm like, I just remember that, but like I have that like part of me that's like, I hope you had those moments of like, damn, that's how I was. You know, you think like you've only ever been doing the greatest thing all the time, you know, like, or that you never did anything wrong. I think that's like a real sign, like a lack of like development. Like you should be able to look back at things you did as a kid and be like, ugh. Not to be ashamed of them, but to be just like, okay, having the perspective that like I know better now is a really important thing.
That all comes from just learning those painful lessons. I still feel that way.
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
do something and the next day or that night, look back at it and think, why did I do that? Why did I have to learn that lesson that way?
Oh, dude, you'll have these interactions with someone. It's like, that's what I think about. Like I'm going to sleep and I'm like,
I'm sorry, can you pull that just a little bit closer?
Yeah.
You don't have to move. You can pull it out so
Okay,
you're a little more comfortable.
How's that?
Perfect.
Better?
Are you doing any good?
Okay. It's like we're trying to go to bed and I'm like, why did I say that to that person? I'm like, that's just like that cringe of just like, ugh.
That's my biggest one, especially doing this, is those moments of conversation where you say something that you shouldn't have said, or you could have expanded on something and you didn't, and you just left it hanging, and you're thinking, I could have handled that. Or even just daily interactions, I could have handled that better, and you didn't, and it stings, and you're thinking, oh, I should have done this, or I should have zigged when I zagged. And
yeah. I think it's easy to look back at all of that in retrospect, and I'm trying to remember what it was from. I think it was Steve Jobs. He had a quote on that I really appreciate. I think about it often. He was giving like a college like graduation speech, and he was like, you can never connect the dots moving forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. Like the whole point was like, so don't try to. You know, it's like, obviously I can look back at everything I did, or you can do it with other people too. Like, how did you not see that? It's like, well, duh, fucking Captain Hindsight. Like, you see the whole situation and its outcome. In the moment, it's a very different thing. It's hard to, you can't predict.
And like you said, you shouldn't really try to. You just have to be in that moment and then learn from it. That's the key, is you have to learn from it. You have to look back so you can see, yes, it was a painful lesson. I wish I didn't have to learn it.
Oh, God.
But I went through it, and now I'm just going to make sure that I don't hit that mark again.
Those are like the strongest lessons, you know, the ones where it was just like...
I had one of those yesterday. We had a podcast, and it got heated, and it got... Not that it wasn't great. I should preface it with that. It was a great conversation. I really enjoyed the whole thing, really. It got a little heated at the end. And I went home, and... I mean, immediately after, I knew it was one of those painful lessons that I was going to stick with me, and it was going to, you know, irk me for however long. And I went home and I was talking to my parents about it, and this is one of those lessons. It's painful, and you got to learn from it, but you will be better off because it happened.
Exactly. And it's always been a proponent of like, obviously you want things to be good, right? That's like nice. That's...
Nobody wants conflict. Nobody wants pain. Nobody wants suffering.
Not everybody wants conflict.
That's true. Yeah. Some people live for that.
Call back to earlier. Some people do. I don't, right? I think your average person probably doesn't want to fight more than they have to. Like, I don't learn when things are great because you don't think about it.
You just move on.
Yeah.
It happens and it passes.
When things really are like shitty and things really are hard, that's when I'm like, okay, man, I feel like I'm growing from this. Sometimes it feels like there's years where you're growing a lot in a little bit of time. And it's like, oh God, can this just stop for a little bit, please? But, you know, like in general, it's like the hard shit is what I learned from. The easy stuff, it's a good byproduct, I guess.
Nobody grows when they're comfortable.
Yeah. And I don't want to go to the other extreme of being like David Goggins, where it's like you should kind of hate yourself and like...
He is out there.
Yeah, so he's inspirational for sure. I don't think that's healthy, though.
Have you read his book?
I haven't read his book, but, you know, I've watched, like, a lot of the stuff he's done and the stuff he's said. And it's like, yeah, I get, like, the point that you're... I think it's like, work hard. And, like, yeah, you get stuff from working hard. That's fine. But also, like, not everybody can just like, lose their mind like that.
Become obsessed.
Yeah, it's not healthy all the time. I think having a good amount of discipline is really healthy, but not to the point where you're like, I can never have any positive thing because of the goal. Like, it's a little intense.
You can become obsessed.
Yeah, easily.
I think we need people like that, though.
You do.
To show that
really
it's possible. To show that maybe you are just being a little lazy today. You could get off the couch. You could go for a run. You could do these things. I don't know that you have to go run, on broken feet for a ridiculous amount of time.
40 miles through Death Valley.
Yeah, you don't have to go do an ultra marathon. I think that's safe to say. But you could do things. It's discipline. And that's the hardest thing for us is being disciplined.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's because I kind of relate back to that behavior of like, I'm always been kind of like all or nothing. And so it's hard when it's like, man, I can only really focus on this thing if it's all I'm doing. If it's like, I give 1,000% to it. But it's better in the long run to have like, pay like a moderate level of attention to it and like kind of just be diligent about it when it's, even if it's not some like Herculean effort towards it. It's like the maintenance of that is the hard part, not those spurts of like massive productivity or massive like work on it and then just ignoring it. That's easier than just like the kind of day-to-day working on, like just being on top of it all the time.
I go back and forth a lot with that idea, especially in relation to doing those podcasts.
Yeah.
Is I feel like I have to sacrifice everything. And I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to, I do this, I work out, and I go to work.
Yeah.
And I don't go out, I don't do these other things. I try to be disciplined with this. And I constantly get into these talks with my mom where she says, you need to be going out, you need to go see your friends, you need to take a weekend off, you need to go do this, do that. And she's right to an extent. You want to have a healthy social life and want to be able to see your friends and hang out and just sit outside for a Sunday and sit in the sun.
It's exactly like what we talked about earlier.
But then I always fall back on the idea, nobody that's truly successful in their craft, or that might not be true, but everyone that is extremely successful has the same mantra. You have to be disciplined and it has to be 110%. You can't go, take a night off. You can't go do this. You have to give it everything. Every second that you're awake needs to be honing your craft. How do you find the balance in that?
There is none.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
I think that's the David Goggins mantra.
For sure.
Give it everything. If you have a second, if you have a lunch break, if you have a bathroom break, you're going to go for a run. You're not going to just sit on your phone.
My ass to the bathroom.
Yeah, you're not going to go hang out with your friends, grab a beer on a Friday night. You are going to work on your craft.
There's a part of me that really does like want to fall into that and just be like, if I just like sacrifice all of that and just
sacrifice myself,
go nuts with that, I can get what I want. And it's, that's true to an extent, like I could drop all of the things I care about and the people I care about and only focus on, like right now I'm working on applications to like, I'm applying to physical therapy school. I'm working and I'm studying for the prerequisites of it. I'm taking chem, and it's like, I could drop everything in all social interactions and do that. But what I've found is like, and obviously I'm not this, multi-billionaire successful person, dude. Like, so what do I know about this shit? But I find that like those moments where I take the time to do that, there's like these little gems hidden in there. There's these little gems of like, if I didn't come do this thing, I wouldn't have met this person. And this person, it's usually the people that I don't expect either. People you just kind of happen to meet, like, that totally change your outlook on something, at least for me. And it's those little times where I just let something happen that isn't part of that like hard routine that like, kind of make me rethink how I think about people or give me that energy to keep pushing at something. Because it's like, I can put my nose on the grindstone for so long, but then I'm not looking at anything else but that. And then it's like, I lose the sense of like why I'm doing it. What am I doing it for? What's the point? So it's those check-ins with me, for me, like where I have a cool conversation with someone and it's like, I may not ever see that person again, but like I learned a little bit. And it's those check-ins that I'm like, this is why I do this. This is why I want to do that. But if I don't give myself the time to have those, then I think I can get so good at something, but then I lose the human aspect of it too. Obviously, for some careers, I think it's a little more, it's easy to do that. I think it depends on how much you deal with people. You know?
That's the counter to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is important. Because being that disciplined and grinding yourself into the ground and, breaking down your body, if you want to take it to a physical level of what Goggins did, beating yourself into the ground like that, it only pays off if you live long enough to see the fruit of that labor.
That's the thing.
If you dedicate your life to something of trying to get to this place that you deem worthy or willing of that sacrifice, if you get hit by a car halfway through, you're not going to be thinking, man, I wish I would have spent 20 extra minutes honing my craft. You're going to think, why didn't I celebrate my kid's birthday? Why was I at work instead of at, dinner with my wife? Why did I not get to see my friend that Friday night when they needed me and I was in the office? It only pans out if you live long enough to see the fruit of that labor. That's the balance. Is you could be ruthless in your dedication. And on your deathbed, if it happens halfway through that, you're not going to be thinking, I should have worked harder. You're going to think, I should have taken more time for the things that really matter.
It's hard, right? The worst part about the whole thing, both of those ideologies are perfectly right. Because at the end of the day...
Who's right? How do you pick one?
Because at the end of the day, like, it's both. Because you're building this framework to accomplish a thing, right? And that's fine. Like, you can do that. You can follow that, and considering everything works out correctly, you're lucky enough, but combined with the hard work, you can get that. But, like, what are we doing this all for? What, that's a completely subjective thing. Because there's not, like, hell, there might be some ultimate, like, perfect reason for why we're all doing this, and you can get into that, like, are we choosing what we're doing, or is it just all planned to happen anyway? You can look at it however you want. It really doesn't matter. Like, just do what you want to be doing. Like, I'm not doing this career, obviously it's one that, like, will pay decently. I'm not doing this for the money. I'm doing this because it's something I'm interested in, and I get to learn about people. And I think that, like, I could just, like, go nuts and dedicate it. I could be the best physical therapist on this goddamn planet and know exactly, like, the response to all of these surgeries, these procedures, like, know exactly how to rehab everything. And that's great. But all of it is, like, what I'm interested in. Like, the times where as much as I want everything to be planned out and make sense to me, the moments that I'm most fond of are the ones that came when I finally was just like, okay, I'll do this even though I'm not comfortable. And then I'm just like, man, that person blew me away. Or I take a shot in a conversation and I'm like, let's throw this out there and see. Going back to, like, working with older people, I'm working with people that have lived, 3 or 4 times as long as I have. So I could listen to them and, if they're telling me, like, yeah, like, just putting your nose down and they seem pretty happy, like, okay, cool. Like, you can do that and be, seem fulfilled. But, you get some people, and, like, there's one guy in particular, he was into late 70s, still athletic, like, still in really good shape. But just every conversation with this dude was awesome because he was just as interested in people. And he got me with a really good one. He always did. Every conversation with him was just like, I just loved working with him because it was just these little, like, nuggets of wisdom every single time I talked to him, right? And, I was talking about how easy it is to fall into that trap of, like, say someone cuts me off and it's like, oh, you're an asshole, like, you're an idiot. Like, these are all things I will still say 100% of the time I'm in the car. I feel like I'm a relatively well-adjusted person, behind the camera, behind the microphone. Get me behind a car and someone cuts me off, I'm going to
Oh yeah,
curse
we're
you, and
going to war.
I'm going to curse you and your entire bloodline, right? I'm never going to like do anything aggressive. I'm never going to be that stupid. But you're going to get a like I'm going to scream at someone, right? He was like, one thing that helped me was I stopped looking at that person and being like, you're an asshole. It's like, no, you're doing something I don't like. Your behavior is what an asshole would do. That doesn't mean that's what you are, but that's what I think of what you're doing at the moment. And recognizing that, like talking to someone that's a lot older, it's like that carries a lot of weight for me because, they've lived a lot longer than I have, and you can't even fathom like what 3 times what we've already lived feels like. We've already had our whole lifetime of info. What's 3 times that feel like, dude? There's no way to know until we get there.
And the experience that comes along with
Yeah.
that. I mean, old people are a great resource. I feel like they're kind of brushed aside in
Mhm.
society nowadays, but they have a lot to offer.
They
have,
can.
yeah, some are a little,
Yeah. A little hard-headed.
You talk to them and you're kind of rolling your eyes. You're thinking, what? How did you make it this far?
Trust
What
me,
is...
I've gotten good at navigating that scenario and
Yeah.
being like, yeah, we're not going to talk about this right now. Man, how's the weather outside? Like,
Yeah, it's a weird balance. And I always fall back. Do you remember Haley Lamb?
Yeah, I do.
I always fall back on Haley because she, and don't quote me on this. I don't remember exactly what she
Don't
said.
quote you on the camera.
I know, right?
Right?
I think at one point she was eating 1 meal a day to try to get to her goals, which is not, I think we could both acknowledge, probably not healthy.
Statistically, you actually end up. So people that do that, like kind of like starve. This is from literature from like back when I was early in college. So the stats could have changed a little bit. Statistically, most people that follow that kind of crash diet where it's like, I'm starving myself, I'm really dropping down. I think it was like 60 to 70%. Don't quote me on that statistic either. But in general, you end up higher. You end up weighing more than you did when you started that.
Because your body goes into that crisis mode.
Also, but it's like the mental aspect of like that extreme restriction. And then like it promotes like like a starvation kind of binging behavior. Because it's like, I've taken so much away from myself. Now I want all of it. Like there's
You
no moderation.
overindulge.
Yeah.
She was doing that not for a diet or anything. She was doing that to save money. She was hard set on, she wanted to buy real estate, and that was her goal, and she's achieving it. Yeah.
Oh, it's admirable.
But being that dedicated for something, I don't know what it would take for me to eat 1 meal a day for something.
I don't think I can.
I mean, how crazy, but that's David Goggins. You're that dedicated to achieving your goal that you were going to eat 1 meal a day to save an extra $10.
You can do all of the like the term like min-maxing you want, like a nerdy term. I love video games, but like you can spend as much time making the perfect decision in like every scenario, right? It all depends on what matters to you. The hard part is knowing that like that's not wrong. The way you're going about it's not wrong. The way I'm going about it isn't necessarily wrong. It's what you want.
What do you want from life?
Yeah. It's what you want from life. And how you do that is up to you. I think as long as you're not hurting other people, as long as you're not, like negatively impacting other people, like, cool, go for it. Do whatever the fuck you want. Go sit in the woods for 3 months and talk with trees and hang out with mushrooms. Like, I love nature, but like, I don't fucking care. Just don't like fuck with other people, That's all I care about.
That's how we should all view that. Whatever you want to do, however you define success, that's the key. If success for you is you are going to sacrifice 5 years of your life eating shit so that you can get where you want to be because that is what is important to you, that is how you're going to achieve happiness in life.
Yeah.
But if you try to go down that path and what's really important to you are the friendships that you cultivate, the lifestyle that you live, the partners that you have, if you try to go down that nose to the grindstone route, you are going to be miserable. And for what? For what?
That is like, that's been a big part of growing up for me. is not thinking that the way I'm doing it is perfectly correct. It's the black and white versus gray. Yeah, it's right for them. Like, that's, if they're getting what they want, cool. It's not going to work the same way for me, necessarily. You know, like, I don't know, man. I don't know what I want.
That's where I'm at.
I think I know some things that I kind of don't want to do and some things that I like working towards.
I think that's just as important.
Yeah.
You can learn just as much from doing things and realizing, I don't want to do this.
Yes.
This is not for me.
100%.
As you can doing something that you like.
Mm-hmm. The negative and the bad times teach you a lot. So it's like, man, I really don't like that. Like, I don't want to do that, you know? And then you learn from there. I don't know what the fuck I want. I know I want to do something that makes me happy. I know, like, I don't know. I feel like every day I try and, do what I think is like the right thing to be doing. But like that end question or like the end goal, like, I don't know what that is. I don't have a hard set one. I'm letting it like come. I'm letting it, like, I'll figure it out. Or I won't. Like, like either I will or I won't. And I just hope that like the route to either is pretty cool.
You can fall into that trap because we have technology and we can see all these paths that we could take and what life might end up like. You get this paralysis by choice.
Oh, you took the words out of my mouth.
That's for me, because I'm in that same spot of I have no idea what I want from life or what direction I want to go. And the biggest thing that I always fall back on is you just have to keep moving forward. Whatever forward ends up being for you, you just have to keep moving forward. If you don't make a choice, that's when you fail, is you stay stagnant and life just passes you by.
That was like, you just described like the kind of cyclical thought process I would get in. Where it's like, man, I should be doing this, we're doing that, like, or it's like I'm presented with too many choices and then I'm sitting there analyzing like the benefits and pros and cons of all of this, like what's the right thing to do, and then like in the end like doing literally nothing because I'm so worried about the ramifications of each decision. And it's like, just like my parents were both are just like, we talked about this, like I go over and hang out with them, have like a fire on the weekend and we're sitting there. It's like, just fucking do something. Just do it. Like let go of that like anxiety of like trying to follow that perfect path. Because as much as I can say it, like, yeah, I give other people the grace when they make mistakes. Because I see them for like what they can be. I can't do that internally. And when someone does that for me, it feels like a concession. It feels like not like pity, but it feels like, no, it's okay. You don't have to do that for me. Like, I can't give myself that same grace that I can give someone else that makes a mistake. So I still follow that, like, I just can't make any mistakes path. It doesn't work.
It's hard not to be your own worst critic.
I think for some people, yeah. I think for you and I, definitely.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
You look at that person in the mirror and you think, you should be so much more right now. You should be so farther ahead. You should be making these choices, doing these things. And yet if your friend came to you and said, hey, I don't know what I'm doing with my life, you would say, hey, you've got time. Just make a choice. And if that's not the right one, who cares? Make another one. You're not signing away your life with this choice. You've got options. You can do things.
The irony of that is like, I have that conversation with a lot of the people I care about all the time. You'll be worried about something. It's like, you are so good at what you do. Like, you will figure it out. You've got time to do this. And then we'll turn around and like, I'm having a hard time with something. Tries to do that same thing. And it's just like, I know what you're telling me, but I don't want to hear it.
I can't take it
because I feel like I should be better. It's just like the hard-headedness in the face of like your own advice, I think is kind of a funny thing. But if you can at least recognize that, I think you're maybe getting somewhere there.
I hope so. I can recognize it. It's hard implementing that.
I hope so too.
I hope that's true. And it's difficult. You see people, and I think this even ties back into high school. You see people who know what they want to do and are passionate about it, and they've followed that plan to a T.
Yeah.
And if you're someone who doesn't fit that mold, it's almost discouraging in a sense. Why
Eh,
can't I figure out what I want?
yeah.
What am I passionate about?
I knew pretty early on, relatively, like what I wanted to do. Like we talked about like the working out, like I started working out and that was cool. And then I knew science was always my shit. I was like, I want to know how stuff. I binge watched how it was made as a kid, dude. Discovery Channel, like all that, like I can hear that voice. I'm just like, I feel like I'm like 6 or 7. It's like when this machine does this, I love it. But it's like science and how stuff works, and I'm like, I took anatomy. I was like, this is cool. Like I know how this stuff works, man. So then I was like, medicine, like, in one way, shape, or form was cool, and it was like EMT, firefighter, doctor. I was like, oh, PT, like this other profession could be cool, and I was lucky enough to sit down with one and talk for a couple hours, and I was like, yeah, this is what I want. So I figured that part out, like the career, and that hasn't changed. Working in a clinic, I interned, in 2018, and when I came back with the same PT like earlier last year, and then got hired at the clinic like last October. I've been there with them since, and it hasn't changed. Like it hasn't made me love it less. I love it more, but I still feel that like, what am I passionate about? I feel like people have these other hobbies, these other things that they're passionate about. And a lot of the time, I feel like I'm just running through a routine. I wake up, I do this, like it's like you just said earlier. I wake up, I do this, I go to work. I mean, I don't go to the gym now. I'll work that back in there somewhere. But I do these things, and then I go to bed. And it's like, do I feel like I progressed something that I love, or that I'm like really interested in? I feel like since being a kid, I've lost that, like, not curiosity, because I'm curious, that ability to just like wonder, or just like having that general wonder for everything. There's like some mysticism. There's like, what's college going to be like? What's the real world going to be like? It's like you have this like beautiful image of it in your head. And then like you get there and it's like, I don't mean to sound super depressing. Like I realize that just sounds so terrible, right? It's like, oh, what's this? What's the point of all this, But it's like, I feel like I don't have that thing apart from the career. I feel like there's something missing there.
I don't know what that comes from. I don't know if it's, again, that comparison aspect of us looking at people who do have
Mm-hmm.
something and thinking I should have something like that,
Yeah.
something that drives me, or you just don't. I don't know. I don't know where that comes from, but it is a strong emotion, and it's like that constant knocking in the back of your head.
Mm-hmm.
Am I am I doing what I really care about? Is what, like,
Yeah.
where does that lead me?
Like there's something else I'm not pursuing. Like it's like I know that like career wise I'm doing something that I do love. And I would not have spent this much time trying to figure this whole thing out and apply to the schools again after like literally getting nothing but denials like the first year and not even getting an interview. That was demoralizing. Feeling like I love this thing so much and my GPA is not awesome, like I didn't apply myself in school like I should have, and thinking that at that age is like what's limiting me right now when I do give all of this effort to the actual career itself on a day-to-day basis. It's like kind of hard to palate. It's made it hard to like apply again, but it's like I know I love this thing, but there's still that something that's missing. I don't know what it is.
That idea of not applying yourself is a funny one, right?
Mm-hmm.
I slip into that a lot. I don't think I've ever really applied myself to anything. That's another big fear of
Yeah.
mine, is going through life without ever giving something your everything.
Yeah.
Really, really, I don't know if it's falling in love with something or chasing a passion to wherever it leads, but really giving your being to something in a weird way. For school, that was some kids. They gave everything in
Yeah.
school. I wasn't like that. I it was cool just getting by.
Yeah.
I didn't really care. And then you look back and you think, damn, what if I applied myself more? That idea of just not applying yourself is a scary one.
I conceded pretty early. I was like, I'm just gonna go to CR, and that's not to knock CR. Like CR has
It's a great school.
for
We give
what?
it a lot of shit because we're locals and
Yeah,
it's
right.
easy to shit on CR, but it's a great school.
CR like has some incredible professors, some insanely talented and like smart people that go off and do some incredible things and come back to the area. So like this is a community that needs someone with some outside perspective, and I think that's a beautiful thing. I just like accepted pretty early. I was like, I'm just gonna go there. I'm not gonna try. Like going through Cutten, and Ridgewood, like, and Zane even, like, I never had to try. I never did. I just coasted. I never like had to really give it effort. And then that tapered in high school where it was like, yeah, I could get away with some things. Like when it came to science, I was super interested, didn't have to try, and like still did pretty well. If it was something I didn't care for, I didn't do well in it, And I started college in my first semester. I got smacked in the face for that. I did not have a good GPA. I think I had like a 2.6 my first semester in college because I just like fucked off. I didn't care. And I was like, oh, I can just do what I always do and just procrastinate and bullshit and do whatever. And I learned that's not the case, especially with like throwing work in the mix too, and got better at it. But I don't know. So do you think we feel that way because we're looking at like again what we could have done? So we're looking in retrospect, or are we still comparing to someone that does have that attitude of like you have to literally whole ass everything you do?
I think it comes from the realization that we could be more.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
And I think the disconnect, at least for me, the disconnect is the passion element.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we just weren't passionate about school.
Yeah.
So that also ties into the fear aspect is what if we don't find that thing that we are passionate about that gives us the ability to apply ourselves fully?
Mm-hmm.
I think some of that stems from discipline. For school, probably
100%.
100%, right?
Good grades is discipline. They're not always, they're indicative of like hard work.
You're not going to like every subject. Some of them you're just going to have to, especially in high school when you don't really get a pick.
Well,
you're going to have to eat it.
Like
college too, if you've got undergrad stuff that you have to work through or major requirements.
If I had my choice, I wouldn't be taking chemistry. I wouldn't be going to the Gen Chem series right now and then, but got to do it.
You got to do it.
And
that's the discipline aspect is you have to do it and you have to pass.
Yeah.
But doing it to pass and doing it because you love it are two radically different experiences.
I think part of getting older is also realizing like there are going to be those things that you have to do that you don't necessarily enjoy doing. And it can't just be doing all the things you want to do all the time. That was like a hard one for me. If I wanted to do it, like every tiny little detail was in my head when it came to science, when it came to a topic I loved doing it, man. Came to something I didn't care about, I just couldn't bring myself to do it. And I don't think it helped. I see people talk a lot about this on like social media. Like going through GATE. Do you remember that program like in elementary school? Like I did it with all of these kids that are like, I think that fucked me up a lot. Like I just got to be like doing stuff I was interested in, and it was cool because it was just like, it was for people that had, I think they were selected based on like some level of pattern recognition was like what they looked for. And I took that with people like Paul Gibbons, dude. Like all these kids that are geniuses in Berkeley and like all of this stuff. And then here the fuck I am, like not trying and not doing anything. Like that's something that's definitely weighed on me for a long time.
I have a lot of gripes with GATE. I was in GATE too.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of gripes with that. Because there's this idea that in the education system, you don't want kids moving too far ahead, just like you don't want kids moving too far behind.
Yeah.
You keep them all in the middle. And I think that system failed us The ones that could have moved further, like, because we were in gate and then there was nothing after gate. There was no follow-up program.
Yeah.
It was, you could skip a grade, you could go down that route, but that doesn't, you're not getting this extra support.
Then you're in like that situation where you have the knowledge, but I don't think you have, like, also part of being in that grade. You get the camaraderie of like being your own age, but also like you don't have the social skills to be there. You don't like, you're now like alienated because you're that young kid that's
You're
just
not fully
thrown into the
developed
grade,
yet.
dude.
You're not
like,
in that age bracket.
yeah, that's also detrimental.
Yeah, and the idea of losing your peers. You go through
Mhm.
school with these kids, you're experiencing life at this age with them, and then to lose that to go to a group that you
Yeah.
have no interaction with.
I feel bad. I don't really see like, you know, I think it's one of the first things I commented on when I showed up, but I was like, you know, I tell patients stories about Cutten. You know, like my favorite one is like the Dodgeball. Like, remember when we just went ham?
How great were those
We
days?
went ham on Dodgeball for so long that we got it taken away because they're like, you guys are just beating the shit out of each other. No one cried. No one complained.
That's the crazy part. Everybody was cool with it. We all just accepted.
Dude,
if
we
you
were
get
like-
hit in the face, you're gonna take a sec and eat it like a champ, and you're gonna come back in.
Yeah, but they were just mad because we were showing up with like those rubber ball marks on our face. They're like, you guys are killing each other. And we're like, and we're having the most fun we've ever had. I tell that story all the time, but like, I don't see anybody Cutten. I don't see anybody from like high school really, you know, apart from like a few people. And I think part of that is like my own kind of just like distance from people usually, you know, like I think it's easier sometimes. And like COVID too, I think is like really kind of throwing a wrench in that. It's just, I don't know, it's cool. Like it's something that like I want to get back because I feel like I've really lost that feeling of camaraderie, that feeling of like community, apart from like my coworkers, which I love my job and I love the people I work with. So it's easy to want to hang out with them. But I want to get back and hang out with people that like I've known from before too, you know?
That's how I felt about this podcast, man. I was excited to sit down and talk with you because we haven't exactly been super close throughout that whole time, but we've always been in each other's vicinity. Like
we've always had mutual, like a lot of mutual. We've been friends and like had mutual friends.
Yeah, like I've grown up with you.
Yeah,
over the years, and then to sit across from you as this, you know, fully fledged. Almost, we're not really. I don't consider myself an adult, but
I don't think will I ever consider myself an adult, right?
This kid who isn't that kid anymore, but is still kind of the same kid, you know?
Catching up, like, it's so funny to me that the first time we're catching up since high school is like on a podcast.
On a podcast.
I love it. And I've never been on a podcast before. I was not gonna lie, like you messaged me and I was like, shit, like it's cool. I was like, yeah, I want to do it. But then I've been like tripping out, like, I have to say on a podcast, like, what do we?
The nerves kick in.
What are we doing, man? Like, I don't know. It's way more chill than that.
You know? Yeah,
like, it's cool.
It's threatening when you get that message of, hey, do you want to do this?
Yeah.
And then you show up here and you see the bar and you see the wood table and you're like, oh, this is
cool.
High stakes at all. Yeah. I think about that a lot. I do. The kids that we grew up with, you almost feel that bond with, especially the kids from Cutten and Ridgewood. You're like,
yeah, man,
you guys.
Those are definitely like, I think very fondly, like on that time, you know, a lot of fun, a lot of like,
just being a kid, just
no
being
inhibition.
a kid,
no inhibition, just hanging out, just like having fun, like just doing stupid stuff, but like just like together, you know. It kind of lose that over time.
You do. I don't know if that's just an aspect of fitting into the idea of what it means to be an adult, that play-like aspect just gets kind of shaved away.
There's all these added layers.
Well, you have responsibilities now. You have a job, you have student loans, you have school, you have these things. And it just, you kind of lose touch with that kid-like aspect of, I just want to hang out. We're just going to hang out and talk and BS and play video games, do these things, you know? Where you get those little inklings. Like, do you play, you said you play video games?
Yeah. I mean, not as often as, I mean, obviously not as often as I used to. I've been playing more recently, just, I think it's been a good, like,
decompression.
Decompression and outlet to just, like, I'm having a hard time focusing. Now, that's been, like, been a big thing, is, like, if the motivation isn't there, it's hard to build that like inertia into doing a task sometimes. And so I think it can be a good way to like still do something and still think about something, but like not necessarily super productive,
But it is in a way, right? Those are almost those connections back to being like a kid. You get to just play video games with your friends.
And the worst part about that is like I don't even like play with anybody, you know? I don't play a lot of the multiplayer games. Like a lot of the people I hang out with now are like, I mean, I don't really hang out with a lot of people anymore, you know, but like I just play like a single player game. I just throw something on because I can just like focus on that and like not worry about it. But
kind of tune out the rest of the world.
A little bit, yeah. But you know, as COVID, like, I mean, when was it ever really like a big deal in our area? You know, we're in such a small pocket of the country. It's like, it kind of fizzled out real quick, like the collective like acknowledgement of it, and was just like, fuck it, you know, whatever. So it's been relatively normal here for a while, I think. But I think that like you can still see the lasting effects in like your interpersonal relationships with people. At least I feel that like all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think it's that aspect is still there. And it's I don't know how long it'll be there.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm like, you know, I'm super happy to be doing this and like kind of like getting to like see you again and you know, like kind of reconnect with people that like I grew up with. And you know, like Haley and I were out the other weekend. We had a friend come into town, so I drove her, hung out with him all night, and ran into like an old coworker of mine. Like I saw him at like, you know, we went to Lost Coast and I saw him there, and then got off and like I saw him at the bar later and talked, and he's now hanging out with like other people that I went to elementary school with, and he's like asking me if I know them. I was like, yeah, dude, I know those people. And he's like, oh, come kick it, like we can all hang out. And it's like, I don't know, there was just that apprehension. Yeah, I want to, and then I'm just like, I don't know why. I'm nervous to like restart that, and it's hard to describe why, man. It's weird.
It's a relatable feeling though.
Yeah.
That concept.
I almost feel like I have to, like I haven't done enough to like bring to the table now.
Yeah. You're still in this place and you think these people might be farther. They've done these other things. I should have done more. I need to balance the weight of their achievement.
And it's like that's not the point. It's not a competition. It never is. It shouldn't be. It's just hard to get out of that line of thought. You know, it's
especially seeing old friends like that.
Yeah.
It's hard.
People that like I was like actually really good friends with and hung out all the time. But now is like trying to restart that. I almost feel that like guilt. I feel that way with a lot of people that, you know, we went to school with. It's like I've had these periods where like different people were like very close friends of mine and then we're no longer, and that's not a bad thing. It happens, you know, you grow apart. But I feel like other people have maintained those friendships better, or like, you know, probably still all hang out, still see each other, and like that may not be the case. I just feel that way because like I feel bad that they're gone, you know. It's I don't know.
No, I get it. I think well you have those friendships and they're everything at that time, and then suddenly you wake up one day and you have a different set of friends. And you look around and think, what happened to everybody else?
Yeah.
And especially once you graduate high school and everyone starts doing their own things, it's hard maintaining those things.
You just have to like change the outlook on it, is like appreciate these little moments when this comes up, and you know,
and take advantage of
capitalizing on the opportunity. Like I sat for like a little bit when you sent me that, because I was like, duh, I want to do it. But I'm like, am I going to be too nervous and like say no? And like I would have been kicking myself because I wouldn't have got to do this, you know. Like I don't know, it's just like being open to that opportunity when it shows up. I should text that guy.
Go do it. You know? That's like, one of my favorite aspects of doing this is just now I have the excuse of, hey Tyler, do you want to come?
Yeah,
it's easier to say, hey, do you want to come do a podcast than to just reach out and say, hey, I know we haven't talked in a few years, but do you want to just hang out? Do you want to go grab a beer? Yeah. Which is basically what we're doing. We would be doing this if we were at a bar drinking a beer, we would just be talking like this.
God damn it, Nick! I gotta start my own podcast, so I have
You should do it, man. I had Rain on.
Like...
Do you remember Rain Glasper?
Yeah,
had her on yesterday. Just because I wanted to reach out to these guys. Yeah, I wanted to talk to you. I wanted to hang out with you. I wanted to hang out with Rain.
Yeah,
and I've got the excuse, and I think it's a blessing in that way. Is you have the excuse.
Yeah,
I don't have to say, "Hey, I haven't talked to you. Do you want to hang out? Do you want to go grab a cup of coffee? Do you want to?" It's awkward that way.
It's weird because, like, obviously, like, agreeing to be on the podcast is like almost more of a time commitment than any of those other things could be. But it almost feels like kind of less personal, and not in a bad way. Like, you know, it's like
because you have something to do. You're going. You have a set plan of, oh, we're doing a podcast. It's not grabbing a cup of coffee and what are we going to talk about? What are we going to?
In the abstract, it's the same thing, right?
It's exactly
the same thing. But it doesn't feel that way in a good way. I think. Like, it's a little easier. Like you said, it's so much easier to just be like, bam, here's this thing I'm doing. Like, you want to come do it with me? Like, I don't know. It's cool. It really is cool. Like, I've always liked this format for media, and
you should start a podcast, man. It's really not as hard. I know it looks kind of techie.
Fucking setup.
Yeah, it looks more techie now than it was at one point, but it's not. It's not hard, and it's a great excuse.
Yeah,
you have people that say no, but you also get to reconnect like this, and you get to talk. And
that's honestly something I've been thinking about all week. Was just like agreeing to do that. I think it could be a good segue into, like, you know, also just being like, you know what, I'm gonna text that person and see what you're doing. I am gonna try and do this. Like, as much as I like letting the weekends be just something where I don't really do anything, because I'm, you know, by the time I get there, I'm usually just kind of like, I feel like I need to spend the days to prepare to, like, do the damn thing again for another 5 days, 4 or 5 days, no matter how long your work week is, right? Like, I don't know. I think sometimes I forget how easy or like how much I do get out of stuff like this.
It's a different kind of recharge.
Not every person I interact with is one that, like, I have to spend a lot of energy.
I was just thinking that as you said that.
Yeah, I don't have to spend, like, being an introvert, it's easy to group everyone together and be like, man, being around people is hard. It's like, no, being around certain people is hard.
Some people are draining, and it's not a bad thing. It's not, you shouldn't hang out with them.
Can't fault them for it.
You just have to be specific. It's not the type of person you want to hang out with forever, for an extended period of time, you know.
It could.
Yeah.
And there's some people, like, you know, you see them and it's like, you know, like, I'll see the name on the schedule. Yes, like, I get to see you again, you know? And it, like, you feel that, like, I just feel good after that interaction. You know, it's like I go off ready to do something else. I think just being an introvert is like, I just have to be more selective about, like, what I do and who I'm around. You don't always have to put on this, like, kind of like mask or like feel like you have to around everybody, but
it's a selective thing. And again, not that it's a bad thing. I have a lot of, I shouldn't say I have a lot of friends that are, but I have friends that you're cool to hang out with for a few hours, but you can't do all day. You can just being in their presence is draining in a way, but it's not a bad thing. You can still love them and still appreciate it's like
them
a battery. Some people, you're pushing more energy, and some people are pushing more energy into you. It's just a give and take.
Some people, like, I mean, some of my closest friends, like, their comfort zone is, like, way larger than mine. It's like, so I get put in a lot of situations where it's like, I don't know if I'm comfortable doing that, you know, and it's like, that can sometimes can be a lot, but it's like, it's also in those moments where I've just been like, fuck it. If I sit too long and think about anything like that, I won't do it. I will think my way out of doing it. I really just have to be like, yeah, I'm like, I will make impulsive decisions like that because I know I will like circumvent my own thought process. I'll just be like, yes, I'll do it, and just roll with it.
It's easy to think yourself into that K-hole of just not
K-hole,
doing
that's such a
anything.
good
Yeah, right?
that's such a good way to put
You
it.
just overthink it and then talk yourself out.
Yeah.
Where if you just took your initial response of, "Oh, that sounds interesting," and
Mhm.
jumped on that,
Yeah.
who knows what might happen?
Not worrying about shit so much. It's not productive, but keeps you alive a little longer in some situations, but it's again, it's like, but for what? It's not
That's
it
the biggest
doesn't
thing is, would you rather live to be 100 and hate
Mm.
80 of those years, or live to be 40 and love every second?
being around people in like wildly different physical states. Like sometimes we'll have people that come in the clinic, like the oldest person I've talked to working in this job was 96. They were born in 1920 something.
That's so
I
crazy.
think it was like 1925. Like
different world
and
at
like
that
I
time.
called the person, like I was going to schedule them, and I called and I was like, holy shit. I realized that as I was calling, and then like the person that answered the phone was like, well, hello? And I was like, whoa, that's not what I expected you to sound like. Like I see a lot of people that are in their like 50s to 60s that are like less there than that. So you see these people that it's like, I want to live to be that age if I'm like you. Like that person I called, sharp as a fucking whip, like the funniest person in the room. You couldn't slip up with your words in front of that person. They'd call you on it, right? It's like, I only want to make it to that point if I'm like there, But that's also an easy thing to say when I feel like I'm there, like at a young age. Who knows? But I'd rather have like a shorter time that is more fulfilling and good than just being there to be there.
I joke about that with my parents all the time. Well, it's not even joking. I'm serious. They think I'm joking.
Yes.
I say all the time, if I am ever hooked up to a machine on life support for an extended period of time, pull the plug on me.
Take me out back. So like full disclosure, we had a person the other day, a sweet person. Like I love talking to them. They're a funny patient, but they said like kind of this same thing. They were like, like it's kind of fucked up, but like we put dogs down. Like I think we should do the same for older people. And I'm like, I can't laugh at that. Like what? But in the back of my head, I'm like, I have specifically told my friends, like, if I can't walk, if I can't do anything, like, if I'm miserable but just here, don't let me be here, please. Like.
And kudos to the people that do make that. Even being a quadriplegic, I don't think I could do that.
No, and like that's what I say. It's like I don't mean that to like detract.
It's not offensive.
Yeah, detract from like from anyone that does that. It's like I know for myself I would be too. I couldn't do it, and that's I think a sign of my own weakness in that regard, or just like my own desires in that regard. It's crazy. My grandpa did that shit. He like within a week was in a position where he went from walking to being fully paralyzed and on a ventilator, and then was just like, I don't want to do this shit. Like seeing that growing up was like, yeah, that he's like, I'm not doing this if it means I'm in this bed the rest of my life. Just like that, like I'm taking ownership of that. It's like, oh, fuck that. I am goodbye, like time it's not easy to palate, but I respect the hell out of it, I think everyone should have that own like ownership.
Yeah. And I'm sure, I mean, for me, it comes from that place of not wanting to be a burden. That I would rather.
That's exactly why I feel that way.
And
I don't want someone to have to take care of me.
Yeah, and it's definitely a fault. Because
Yeah.
your family would say, no, it'd be fine. We just want to have you around.
You would do the same. You would do that and more for someone.
1,000%. If my mom or my dad or my sister, something like that happened, I would be there all the time, 24/7. But I would not want them to do that to me.
I
pull the plug.
I'm like, just
wheel me in front of a bus. I don't know. Take a pic.
I'll be a speed bump. I don't know which comic said it, but they were like, just fucking throw me in a dumpster. I don't care. I think it was George Carlin. He's like, I'm dead. What the fuck do I care? Just toss me, man.
It seems like that all comes from just this weird relationship we have with death now.
Americans are definitely that way. Other cultures are not.
Because realistically, with suicide, if someone has cancer and it's stage 3 or stage 4 and there's no upside, it is only going to get worse for them, and they want to go out with a certain quality of life, why would we not want that for them?
I'm a big advocate for that because it's in the same way that I'm like, people will do what they want. As long as you're not hurting someone, do whatever the fuck you want. I don't care. If you have anything, it's that. I think it should be that. The ownership of your own, like, existence.
It's your life.
It's your life, and no one else has a say in what you do with it, I think. You know, I'm not going to get into the whole discussion of, like, you know, being told what to do in certain scenarios. Like, it's irregardless of that. Like, I think someone in that position should decide, you know what? I don't want this. I saw, you're pulling that up. This actually was the source of, like, a very long discussion between my father and I about this topic.
I don't know what are you pulling up here, Andy?
So it's a suicide pod. So they fill it with nitrogen gas. And so comparative to, like, CO2 being, like, overexposed to CO2 is actually one of the worst ways to go out because it stimulates, like, a pure panic response, like dread. Nitrogen, on the other hand, laughing gas. So I think it's nitrous oxide is what I believe what they use in the dentist office, and that's what you inhale on. You know, kind of gives you that euphoria. So filling the pod with that, you just kind of get into this relaxed state, and then you die from suffocation, obviously, but it's in a humane way.
And yeah, so they're getting you high before you die. That's fantastic.
Yes,
right. You're going out happy.
You know, and my dad's a very practical guy. Like, him and I are a wonderful example of people that, like, I fully understand why he thinks the way he does about things. There's a lot of things that we really don't agree on, and that's fine. You know, him and I will just sit and just, like, talk about it. We'll be drinking, like, when I lived there, we'd be just drinking and just, like, not even going at it, but just, like, talking about it forever. And my mom's saying, like, I can't do this. Like, walks out.
She thinks exact same way with my parents.
She thinks we're arguing, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I just want to understand the reasoning why he thinks that, and he'll do the same for me. And this is something that we disagreed on because he brought up some good edge cases of, like, someone that's not necessarily in their right mind deciding it, or, like, a kid deciding it. It's like, yeah, that's a hard one. That's a real gray area. But, you know, like, obviously you can think of, like, the dramatic teenager that's like, oh, or not even dramatic, but, like, the teenager that's like, oh, what's this all for? Like, you know, the frustration and not having the perspective to, you know, decide or, like, really know what else there is. And I get that. That is, like, a valid concern. I still default back to the, like, that's harsh, but that's your life. And there's a part of me that likes to think there's something more out there. You know, I don't want to think it's just, like, you have nothing. Like, obviously I want to think that you're, like, reincarnated as something, or, you know, but there's no way to know, right? You think you can know, whatever. And I'm not going to get into that whole thing. Not gonna step on any toes here. But, you know, I like to think there's something else, and it's your choice.
It should be.
Yeah. It's as distasteful and bitter that can be in the mouth. Like, yeah, it can be fucked up. That's what a lot of this can be. But that is yours to decide. No one else's. That's yours.
A good edge case would be someone who has dementia or early onset dementia, and they go in and out of that choice, right? Because then what do you do?
Yeah. Do you allow them to do that when they have decided, you know, when they've decided that, like, in a lucid moment, that's what they want, and
then they revert back and
right.
Say, I don't want to die.
That's gray.
That would be a tough one.
That's gray. Yeah. That's very hard to decide.
Dementia freaks me out. That would be another one where I say just pull the plug. That's probably my biggest fear.
It's a tragic thing.
You lose your life. I mean, all we really have are our memories, the knowledge that we've acquired throughout our life.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, imagine having kids and them growing up and having grandkids and looking at them and not recognizing who they are.
It's an awful thing because you truly do lose that person before they're gone. And that is something that, like, I can't imagine. I can't, like, imagine what that feels like and what that looks like. You know, that's terrifying to me. That the cognitive, like, obviously I get annoyed if I can't move the way I want to and if my body physically. I would rather lose the physical first. The cognitive loss is what really terrifies me, for sure. And good, like, we had a patient that you know, I can't remember what we were treating. I think it was like balance or something. They were starting to have that onset of memory loss, and got to watch it progress as it went on, right? As we, you know, we kept treating them. And I love this person to death. Such a wonderful person to work with. One sentence they said really stuck with me, and it kind of like haunts me, and I still think about it to this day. They were talking to my boss, and they go, you know, I can still remember how to get home. That's a good thing, right? Can't remember a lot. I remember how to get home. I remember how to get here. I don't remember a lot of people. I kind of know how to get around. And that was it. It was just like, oh, I like, you know, obviously you like finished the appointment. I had to take a second. Be like, oh, damn, that, like, trying to have us reassure them that, like, yeah, no, at least you remember that. But just being able to see that marked loss in that person change even over the course of us seeing them was like probably the closest real life example I've had of that kind of problem. It's crazy.
My grandfather had dementia,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just a different beast. You watch
Mm-hmm.
him, and the grandkids, we were kind of the first ones that he forgot, obviously, because we were the closest to that.
Yeah. Further enough out, like.
And it's almost like you're looking at a ghost, because you see the person and you still have those memories and you're still attached to them, and you have a lifetime of experience with them, and they're looking back at you like you're a stranger. And I think that's why they get that suicide aspect is hard in that case, is you're not really around at that point for you anymore. You're around for your family. They're keeping you around for their reasoning. Like they still want you there. They still want to see you.
Yeah.
You're gone.
I think that perception of it is definitely related to how you and I like look at this issue, right? In terms of that extreme like ownership of your situation. But that sparks like another question, like another gray area of like, morally, is it right to do that? And like, are you truly keeping them for you? Or are you keeping them alive because, again, like we were just talking about with the pod, like, can they truly decide if that's what they want? When they kind of go in and out of that cognition, that ability to remember, like, are you doing it in hopes that that's better than the alternative for them? Or are you doing it for yourself? And I'm sure there's situations where, yeah, they're definitely keeping them alive because you can't handle letting them go. But I think when it comes to like a dementia type thing, like, versus like, I don't know, like pulling the plug on a loved one, I think that situation is a little more obvious, especially if they're completely unresponsive. Like,
oh yeah, if they're brain dead.
Yeah, you know, you're holding out for some hope, maybe.
Yeah.
But that is like kind of you to a degree. Like at a certain point, and that becomes more for you.
It helps. I shouldn't say it like that, but that's what I'm going to say. It helps that they're not responsive, that you can't interact with them.
No, I get that. And there's a lot of things where it's like, it feels awful to say.
It's a
like,
gray area.
but that is like part of the situation, right?
Yeah.
Like, the hard part is like someone that isn't able to control that, like the thought process behind it, like where one day maybe you think they would want that, and one day they don't. You don't know where they're at mentally. There's no baseline there. Yeah, it's hard. The thing about like those prices that like he pulled up,
What does this say? Depending on the state and specific facility, the daily cost associated with memory care ran between $83 and $403 per day.
Yeah.
With the national median cost being closer to $181 per day. That's a lot of money.
And the unfortunate thing is like, working in healthcare and like having to spend a lot of my time contacting insurance companies and talking about like what benefits like a specific patient would have if they come see us like through their insurance. Like, I don't think very highly of them. Like, obviously you need the health insurance. Like, I'm not going to get into the much wider conversation of how I feel about our insurance like situation in this country, because it's not a positive outlook. I don't have one, but
I would be alarmed if you did have one. I would say,
yeah,
we gotta talk.
Yeah, it's a stupid system. It really is. Like you're paying that price, and in a lot of situations it's not quite the fault of the workers of those facilities, but I would wager it's probably analogous to like a care home, and care home conditions are regularly like very bad. And I say it's not always like the staff's direct fault, because I mean, you see it a lot here in healthcare, but like they're completely understaffed and unable to provide the care that these people really need. Obviously, you have your cases where it's just like apathy and it's like just a job, and I'm not going to do what I need to do to help, Miss Johnson out. Like,
yeah, they have those cases where you just wheel them in front of a door and leave them there for 6 hours.
Don't care. But like, that's also like a response of people that are extremely overworked and people that don't have the supplies they need to adequately take care of people, especially when you're trusting them to like take care of your loved one like 24/7. See we have a lot of patients right now that are like taking care of another loved one at home. Like their partner is in very bad health, and they have to cancel a lot of their own appointments because they have to spend the time to take care of another person. And that's hard to watch. Like, you're watching these people make decisions. Like, they can't get the care that they desperately need because they have to spend the time to do it for someone else, because they don't want them to end up in that situation. It's hard.
That's a good representation of, again, going back to the counter argument, is if assisted suicide were legal, how many people would be forced into choosing that because they can't afford the monthly expenses of keeping their loved one alive?
Yeah, like, how do you avoid not only like the coercion aspect of it, like convincing someone
that would be so fucked up.
Right? No, and it is, but like,
it would be a reality.
I'm not talking about something that hasn't like occurred.
Yeah,
right. But like, having to make that decision.
I mean, $180
for that
a day
reason too.
For money,
a lot of these people are living on fixed incomes too. Once you get into that like Medicare bracket and you're retired, like, depending on your circumstances as you got towards the end of your career and how much you were able to save, like the decisions you made, it's hard. It like, we had someone cancel an appointment the other day because they're on a fixed income. And obviously, if like myself and like the PT had been there, like, like had been privy to that conversation before we found out like they had canceled, like, could have tried to figure out a way to navigate that, because we don't want that to be something that limits someone. Obviously, like, as a private clinic, like, payments from insurance companies like are not great, and they are actively lobbying to pay less and less, and part of that is because certain administrations eat into the Medicare budget and don't pay anything back into it. That's why Medicare's deductible rises every year, and that's why the coverage rates get lower, but whatever. Like, you obviously can't do everything pro bono, because you have to, like,
you'd be out of business.
You have to keep your doors open, and if your doors aren't open, like, you're not helping anybody, right? But it feels weird, like, charging that kind of thing, like, it's fucked up. Like, if you think about it in the abstract, like, you're having to pay to do that. But obviously, like, the people need to be paid. Like, we need to be able to have a career to sustainably keep doing this kind of thing. But it's like, to have to make that decision of like, no, I will live with this pain because I can't afford to do anything about it is awful to me.
My biggest thing is that if we have the technology and the capability to heal someone or help them or fix them or keep them alive, and the barrier to them receiving that care is money, that's a joke.
Yeah.
All of the things that we spend money on, all of the taxes that we pay, all of the stupid shit the money that just gets pissed away, and we can't, everyone hears universal healthcare and you start going socialist, and it's a wormhole, right?
Yeah.
But
That's
the police, the fire department, you don't have to pay, you're not paying some private company to come out and put the fire out of your house, but
you're paying for their funding. At least you hope that's what it's going to. But
yeah, so why can't we do that with?
Because nothing pays better.
Health.
Nothing pays better than
absolutely not.
Military
Big Pharma,
industrial complex.
Big Pharma itself is huge.
Dude, so if you want to go down a rabbit hole, that's
like, here we go.
If you want to go down a rabbit hole that's like really gonna piss you off about healthcare, I don't know if you're on like TikTok at all, right?
I'm not.
Okay.
Andy's been
dude, it's
telling me I need to go on it.
Fucked up like rabbit hole that I can go down to. That's part of the reason why I found out like and ended up getting diagnosed with ADHD, because of how easy that like rapid like transition between new material is for me, like how satisfying that is. Look up a pharmacy benefits manager.
Is this a TikTok page?
No. So the reason that I like learned more about this, yeah. So they are responsible for processing and paying drug claims. So they're on the side of the insurance company, right? Like an insurance company will hire one of these people to do this. This person, in part, gets to decide how much the medication you pay for costs. So Medicare, so like your Social Security, right? So whenever you're over 65, like you are eligible for Medicare. That this is like another good analog that you're pulling up, not an analog for that necessarily. I think what Mark Cuban is doing here is wonderful in terms of getting these generic forms of these drugs to people for cheap.
Oh my God, look at that. L-Matinib, he's selling it for $14.40 and the retail price is $2,502.
A real life example of this. I went to pick up a prescription yesterday. The cost was $225 a bottle. And this is for the generic version of a drug. If I were to get what was initially prescribed and denied by my insurance, $465 a bottle. I ended up paying $50 because of a code the pharmacist input. Fucked up thing, and what brought this up. So the relation to TikTok was there's a guy, his account name is like Dr. Glockenflecken, but what he's I don't remember what specialty he is. But he it's like GLAU, yeah, it's like whatever you pull.
Glockenflecken?
Yeah, so what he does is, I don't remember what specialty he's in. He is actually a doctor. But what he does is he pokes fun at the medical industry, and he pokes fun of different professions. He makes fun of like orthopedic surgeons, neurosurgeons. Like he makes fun of like all of the stereotypes of like about these people that come up. He also heavily makes fun of insurance companies for this reason. So Medicare was purchased and is now being run by United Healthcare. So a lot of these Medicare patients now that had lower copays and like lower coinsurance percentages are paying more now. United Healthcare has their own pharmacy benefits manager. So again, someone that like gets to work on the pricing of these drugs. Medicare patients, United Healthcare patients now get prescribed through a company called Optum Pharmacy that's owned by United Healthcare. United Healthcare nets over $200 billion a year. And they're providing a service for people that are on a fixed income. Like the $200 billion a year profit on something that is literally paying for the medical expenses. And paying is a loose term because they do not want to do that. One of the other things that he showed me was you might have, like, depending on how much like medical care you've had, like heard of prior authorization? So like your insurance company, before they will agree to cover a procedure, has to review it. And your doctor will usually end up having to send like more documentation to support like the need for that, apart from the fact that they're a fucking doctor saying this person needs this, right? The insurance company will have their own doctor or own professional in that field that says like, nah, I don't think you do. Fuck off. We're not paying for that. That whole thing aside, one, I think it might have been United Healthcare, was they implemented prior authorization for cataract surgery. So literally people that are having like a very hard time seeing, they implemented prior auth because they realized they were paying for too many of those surgeries a year. What prior auth allows them to do is push it off a couple months while they say they're reviewing the need for that service. They're able to pay so much less a year because they're just pushing the surgery off for people for months at a time, so they don't have to pay for it that year. So the quarterly numbers are better.
That whole field,
they're not your friend, dude.
That whole system is just so broken.
They are not your friend at all. Like,
oh, I turned off the speaker. That might help. I mean, it's a joke.
Hey, boss, I got a quick question for you. What is it, Timothy? Where are we at with revising those guidelines? What? Why would we revise the guidelines? Well, they're awful, and people are still mad at us. It was like a month ago. People are still mad about it? Well, there's been other stuff, too. Oh, no. What stuff? The director implied that it's okay if people with comorbidities die during the pandemic. Why would she say that? Nobody knows.
That's not good. I mean, what do you do though? The industry is so big and it's come so far and it's got so much power. How do you put that genie back in the bottle?
So this, like, a lot of it relates to, like, you know, like we talked about earlier about how like CR has some like incredible people working there. One of those people that like just like radically changed my outlook, my poli-sci professor, Ryan Emenaker. This dude got his bachelor's from HSU, transferred out, went to Brown University. So he got his master's in political science. He won an award for outstanding student thesis. Like, his work was the most known of his group. He came back here to teach. He came back to Eureka to teach. So he teaches at HSU and CR. At least I don't know if he still does. He used to. Like, I don't know where he's at anymore. But he would take like a break every year and go on sabbatical and campaign for like the Democratic Party, and then come back to be a professor. One thing that he heavily talked about was America's like lax campaign donation laws and lobbying. So there's people that, you know, under the guise of whatever company, can just donate money. Be like, hey, don't vote for this. I'm going to give you a check and you're going to be real happy with that money, right? And you're going to vote favorably for what we want. That's a lot. And the reason that we allow, like, it's not the reason we allow it, but because we allow that to happen so frequently, this is like this is an example. Like, so many things are a byproduct of that. This is definitely one of them. And it's the fact that these people with a vested interest in like what they're doing, their private business. Thank you. Like, the fact that they can do something that is in the interest of them making money, but pay for people to continue to let that keep happening legally, is a really fucked up gray area. And I don't think it should be a gray area.
It should be.
It shouldn't be, right?
Well, I mean, it affects all of us.
Yeah,
everybody,
but not them.
Goes to the hospital. Well, yeah,
not the person making that decision. The person making that decision is living in such a beautiful home right now.
Yeah, we're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars.
Don't fucking care. That's the sad thing. Is like, this person, and I'm not gonna like take like the super moral high ground here. Like, there's a lot of things where if someone was like, "Here's $250,000, do what I want," most people, that would solve so many problems for like 90%, like 95%, 99% of people, right? If you just put $250,000 in front of them, make this one decision. Doesn't seem so bad, right? Like, I can do a lot of good with $250K. I can take care of my family. I can do all that. I'm not justifying what they're doing. But when you're presented with like that kind of opportunity, most people will just go with it, you know? But this is a sad like kind of outcome of that. The ability to influence policy with the money that you're making, regardless of the morality there, isn't a good thing. It can go both ways, but it often doesn't, unfortunately.
Yeah, money and business, or not money and business, money and morality are in a weird dance all the time.
Yeah.
As the money gets higher, your morals start to drop.
Like leadership positions too, right? Like the people that I've done, you know, like I was in a fraternity when I went to SF State, and like the people that really, really, really wanted to be in positions of power scared me. I hated being in leadership. It naturally, I ended up in leadership in like my first job, that fraternity, like it just kind of happened. But I didn't want to do it. It was people going like, hey, you know, we want you to do this thing, you know, like the people that really, really just wanted it without other people supporting them, like that scared me. It's like, I can make those decisions. It's like, I didn't think of it that way. I was scared to make like the decisions. People trusted me more than I trusted myself to make them, you know? I'm nervous around someone that's like, I want all the power to do that.
That basically sums up 90% of the politicians we currently have.
I don't know.
It's a weird field. The ones that want the power are the ones that shouldn't have the power, and the ones that should don't want to do the job.
In a lot of ways, yeah. Unfortunately, but
which sucks for all of us, right?
Little peons.
Like, yeah, it'd be nice if we actually had somebody up there looking out for everybody, but it's a balancing act. And then you hear, and I haven't done any research on this, so I can't really validate it, but you hear that, you know, the universal healthcare setup that's in Canada isn't great. And so what's the trade-off there? Do you want great healthcare, or do you want accessible healthcare? And does it have to be a trade-off? Can you have both?
I think it's also hard, like, taking in info about that from people that don't live there, because you get a lot of that outside. You got a lot of that outsider perspective of people here that are like, oh, well, you know, you imagine the lines when everyone can get care. It's like, dog, I went to both of the times that I've gone to the ER here, I haven't gotten out in less than 6 or 7 hours. I broke my wrist thanks to Dustin punch. No, it wasn't Dustin's fault, dude. But it was my own fault in being so uncoordinated. But he juked me out of my damn shoes and captured the flag.
Oh,
dude,
damn.
He juked me out of my fucking shoes and I fell through my hand behind me and broke my wrist, right? The whole thing. But I went to the ER. I was like, I texted my mom. Oh, I didn't text my mom. I had my friend text my mom because I couldn't hold my phone. And I was like, my arm hurts really bad and I can't move my hand. And she's like, well, how are you texting me? And my friend replied, this is like, I think it was Zedekiah. He was like, this is Kaya. Tyler can't hold the phone. And my mom was like, fuck, okay, he's hurt, right? So that whole thing, like, I got there at like 6 o'clock. I think I got home at like almost 2 in the morning. I sat there for like 4.5 hours before anyone came out and did anything. And then beginning of last year, so embarrassing, I was doing an at-home workout. I was like in my room. I had like kettlebell. I was like doing kettlebell swings. A little too tired, like tensed. As I like swung the kettlebell, like I lost my ab control and was just like, ugh! And I dropped. I was like laying on the ground, couldn't move. Like I thought I gave myself a hernia. It took 7 hours in the ER for them to be like, no, you don't have a hernia. You probably just pulled. I literally pulled like every muscle from like my armpit down on like one side. I was like hunched over. It was so embarrassing, just like how it happened. I was there for like 7 or 8 hours and the bill was huge. It's like, we have those fucking problems here and we pay more for it, you know? Like you can pay for someone to spit on your forehead or pay for someone to wait a little while and actually take care of you, you know? Like You get like a lot of people here get conditioned to just like, yeah, shit sucks, deal with it, and not being like, well, we can make this a little better. Don't you think?
You would think. I think people get jaded.
Oh,
I've been to
100%.
the emergency room in my life dozens of times.
Yeah,
Dozens
I
of
think I'm
times.
like I think I'm at like 2.
I should have a
2
stamp
or 3.
card. I've earned a free visit. The
You
amount
and
of
my
money
dad.
that they've gotten from me.
No free visits. Talk
But
about that, you
you're
socialist.
right. Every time that I've gone, the emergency room. What is the other one? Urgent call? Urgent care? Urgent call. Urgent care. I've gone to the emergency rooms down in Sacramento. Urgent care. It's all the same story.
I've done urgent care like a handful of times, but not
You
like
wait
the ER.
hours.
Yeah.
You wait hours, and then you get in, and then you wait some more, and then you see a couple people, and then you wait some more. It's not a fast system.
It never is. But it's like, I know a lot of people that have this attitude of like, well, it's not going to fully fix the problem. Well, we sure as shit can make a step forward towards that. Like, yeah, it's not going to solve everything, and you can pull out all these edge cases you want against it. But wouldn't you want to try for something that might be marginally better for most people than it is right now?
I think people just lose the will for change when it seems insurmountable. When something's always been done this way, and people have tried to change it and it doesn't change,
100%.
they get burnt out and they say, this is just the way that it is. This is the way that it's been. This is the way that it's always going to be. You're not going to change it. You should just accept it. And that's where progress dies. Is when everybody
100%.
accepts that and nobody fights anymore. Nobody tries to make a change.
Yeah. And I mean, again, like, we go back to like picking your battles on things, but
that's a pretty good battle to pick.
I think so.
Yeah.
But I understand how people like over time kind of lose that. You know, you have things closer to home that you care about and need to take care of. And in the scheme of things, like, you know, I don't want to contribute more to that because I feel like I need to take care of people here. But like, and obviously I feel this way now of like, I don't care if I pay more in my taxes as long as it means someone else is, like, if someone else is actually benefiting from this and I'm not just pissing money down a hole in the name of like doing something better and it's not actually doing anything, like if it's actually helping people, fuck it, tax me more. Like, I don't care. As long as like that comes back and it's like the quality of life is better for everyone around me. People forget that like taking care of the people around you and that being better for them is also better for you. It doesn't have to be so like individualistic. It's very easy to be that way, but like a lot of other cultures are way more community oriented and like the norm is caring for other people. That's something that trips me out.
I think the easiest answer would be universal healthcare, but people have to buy in with work. And so if you choose to not eat very healthy and you choose not to exercise and you choose these poor consequences, maybe you do have to pay a premium. Maybe you have to put a little skin in the game. But if you're healthy, if you're active, if you're trying to, and I'm not talking about, you don't have to have a six pack, you don't have to be shredded, you don't have to be on gear, but maybe you go for a walk every other night, or you take these steps to try to be healthy, and something happens that sucks, and you need some healthcare. Now we're going China now.
Okay, yeah.
What made you just pull up the credit score?
Well, you were talking about you know, putting the work and you're gonna eat unhealthy. Well, it looks like you're gonna have to pay.
You're right. I'm full of shit because that is exactly where it could go. Is that
so? Is this where I like? How? Oh God, I'd be scared to see what my credit score, my social score would be. Like, there's plenty of people in. Thank God. Like, the one good thing about not the one good thing, but one good thing about having lived in San Francisco is like, on the nights where I drank way too much, and I inevitably like fell out of an Uber downtown because I was like, I'm gonna destroy your car, stop and pull over so I can get out. Right? Thank God it wasn't here, where it can be like my mom's friend is there, like, what? And I'm just blacked out on the street. Like, it's in a place where no one knows who you are. So, and realistically, no one saw me. So, like, my social score wouldn't be that bad. But, like, God, it would have been so bad if it was here.
The credit score freaks me out. And people think that
Yeah.
that can't happen here, that we are
Totally
somehow
could.
above that our politicians wouldn't sink to that level, or we wouldn't embrace that wholeheartedly.
I think there's a benefit to having understanding that, like, there is the potential for a lot of that to happen, but also trying to not assume the absolute worst will. Like, having some, like, a moderate level of skepticism, like, Henshaw beat that into my head, dude. I respect the hell
Shout
out
out
of
to
that
Henshaw.
man. Shout out to Ben Henshaw for shaping, like, it's sad, dude. Him and Bersu are both retired.
I want to try to get Bersu on this podcast. I think that would be
a trip,
right?
Can you call me back for that one?
Yeah, I'll be like, Bersu, you're gonna come on, but we're also gonna bring on Tyler because he needs to be a part of this.
Yeah, I actually talked about Bersu yesterday in my chemistry class because I think it might have been on Tuesday. My professor was swinging. Fun fact: my chemistry professor right now is my neighbor. That's really funny. That brings out a lot of really funny situations. I wouldn't say that in class because I want to, like, keep that, like, for both of us. Sorry, Dave. But he was, like, swinging a yardstick around. He's just kind of fidgeting. But I was like, oh, are we bringing back, like, corporal punishment? Like, smack the shit out of someone if you're upset. And he's like, nah. He's like, I'm tenured, and thought about it for a little longer than he should have. He's like, I could probably get away with it. And I was like, my civics professor in high school smacked the shit out of me. I don't think you were in my civics class.
I don't think
he slapped the crap out of me. I had.
Are we talking open palm? Or?
Yes, like open palm, right? So, remember Trevor Ribberty?
Yes.
Okay, so Trevor Ribberty was, like, sitting next to me, and you know how Bersu would do that thing where he would, like, lecture, like, while walking around the class, and if there was an open desk, he'd just sit in it and start just talking, right? So he's sitting right behind me. And Trevor just keeps, like, leaning over trying to talk to me. And Bersu goes, shut up! Smack me on the back of the head. And the whole class is like, what
paralyzed.
The fuck just happened? I'm laughing so hard because he didn't hit me that hard, but it was like a fatherly, like, hey, just, like, cracked me on the back of the head. I'm, like, in tears laughing so hard that he did that. And he, like, shook me. He's like, it's like, you're like a son to me. And he just, like, rattled me. But everyone's like, what the fuck is wrong with this dude? And his favorite retort was always, I was a nun in the past life. I could smack you if I want to. Like, he just didn't give a shit. But, God, I miss that guy.
He did not care.
No,
his rants were legendary when he would just go. I mean, you could kill a whole class period if you got him
the
really
deconstructed
going.
taco story. I don't remember, like, the basis of that one. That one was good.
I just remember the "you are here."
The concentric circles.
Yeah, and you're also here.
Oh, dude, did he ever tell you the Costco story? Like a weird tangent,
I don't think so.
This man, like, really influenced, like, a lot of people. The reason I brought him up with Henshaw is because, like, Henshaw was, like, the ultimate tight ass of a professor. Like, if you used a dash, heaven forbid, instead of a hyphen, you had to resubmit your paper the next day for a grade deduction, right? Like, this is the kind of dude we're talking about. Bersu, like, he told one of my friends, like, the thing he was looking forward to most when he retired is just being able to do acid again, which is, like, fuck.
Bersu said that? Yeah. Oh, I gotta get him.
Bersu also has, like, a big Lebowski poster on the wall, with a bunch of other movies, right? They're best friends, but they could not be more opposite from each other. And oh god, what's up? Costco. Bersu goes, yeah, I'm terrified of Costco. Thank you for that. Bersu goes, I'm terrified of Costco. We're like, all right, shoot. He goes, well, I was in a Whole Foods and an earthquake happened, and a tub of, like, some glass shit fell off the top shelf and shattered. It scared the shit out of me. And then I thought, well, if I'm in Costco and an earthquake happens, if I get killed by, like, a 30-pound tub of mayonnaise, I'm going to be so fucking mad. He's like, that's why I don't shop at Costco. He refuses to because he's like, if I die from a comically large, like, condiment jar or something, I'm going to be mad for the rest of eternity. So he just refuses to shop there for that reason.
That sounds like Bersu.
Yep. Man of principle.
We had some some really great teachers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we really did.
We had some wonderful teachers. Like, I don't know. I was always the kind of person where like people would like I hung out with a lot of upperclassmen usually, especially towards like sophomore junior year. I mostly hung out with like juniors and seniors, and they'd give you like, oh well, this teacher's like this or this teacher's like this, and I always took it with a grain of salt. Oh, this teacher's an asshole. I get to know him, and it's like, well, were they really an asshole? Were you just like
Dicking off in class?
Yeah. Or were you dicking off in a way that was annoying to them? I dicked off all the time. I just found a way to irritate the teacher in a way that they would have fun with.
That's half the battle.
Yeah. I did that to Miss Bush all the time.
Did you? Oh, Bush was a crack up. She was a character.
I loved her. I irritated the shit out of her on a daily basis, and my brother does the same thing. I think he has it right now. But he does the same thing.
Oh, man. Yeah, there are some teachers. I think teachers get a bad rap sometimes because there are some shitty ones out there. And there are some ones that
real bad teachers I've had.
But there are also some really good ones.
Yeah.
And I think that just speaks to life in some sense that you're going to find that anywhere. You're going to find people who really care and really are dedicated to the job and trying to teach in this case. And you're going to find people that don't care. And it's just a paycheck and they're just there to clock in and clock out.
And that's fine, man. Like,
I mean, it sucks in the case where you're teaching kids.
Yes.
You think if you have any job where you want somebody really dedicated to the craft, it's that. That in healthcare. You don't want a surgeon that's just half-assing.
That was exactly what I was thinking, was like there are healthcare professionals that, maybe it happened over time or maybe that was initial, but like it ends up being the motivation is the money. And it's, it's hard to refute. Money's like it's an attractive thing. It makes shit happen. That's what I view it as. I don't view it as something to like desire or like want. I only want it as far as I can use it to like take care of the people near me or like do the things that I want to do with them, or like build a better life for them. Like, I don't think of it as something that I want apart from its use. I think it's a very attractive thing to a lot of people.
I think you can pull this up. I think they say that after $80,000, once you go higher than that, it doesn't equate to a greater increase in happiness. Or at least that's what it used to be. Now it might be higher with inflation and all that, but which makes sense. Once you have your basic needs met.
You were close. 75K.
75. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
I'm at least in the ballpark. I'll take that.
So I'm assuming like 75K, like let's assume like 75, like that's what you're netting, at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Which makes sense. If you have your bills covered, the greatest reference to that I've ever heard or explanation of that is you want enough money so that you can go out to dinner and not have to look at the price on the menu.
Yeah.
Anything past that, and it's just extra.
And I don't even want to be going to like a super crazy place and I can buy a $4,000 dinner, like
a gold-plated steak,
$700 or $800 dinner. And because I worked around a lot of people like that. I worked at when I was in San Francisco, I bar backed at a restaurant called Hillstone. Super nice place. It was beautiful. It was like on Embarcadero, like on the waterfront, like right across from where Alcatraz, the ferry, picks up. And fun fact, so the dude that owns Hillstone, his name's George Beal. George owns all of the restaurants privately. So he has a couple in New York. He has one in Midtown and downtown New York. The one in San Francisco, I think, lost on average $15,000 to $20,000 a month. It was never positive. But he didn't give a shit that it didn't make money. He considered that $15,000 to $20,000 a month as an advertising expense for having his restaurant at the front of that city. He didn't care. He decorated every restaurant in that company with his own art, and he moved it around as he desired. This dude, like, he figured it out. But being in that kind of job, like, I mean, I was in a full tuxedo every night as a bar back, and then I bartended a little bit too. I was around people that made a lot of money. And the cool thing was meeting someone that made a ton of money, because you can tell in like their demeanor. The people that made a good amount of money, much more than your average person, but still not like rich, talked about it more. And we're just like, yeah, I have money, like all this. The people that really, really, really had like old money, very nonchalant, would show up in just like a t-shirt and shorts, or a t-shirt and jeans. But they probably had triple the net worth of the people around them. Brought a lot of people that were kind of like snobby too, like, oh, I bought this $400 bottle of wine. Like, look at me. I only had one person. I told this story the other day, but I only had one person the whole time I worked there that pissed me off. It's the only time in like all of my jobs where I've almost broken my customer service smile and actually just like hauled off and said something that got me fired. Super busy. So it's like a 25 to 30 seat bar top with full service. So dinner, drinks, everything. Cleaning all these plates. Like I'm washing dishware. Like I'm going as fast as I can. And it's usually like the people seated. And then there's like 3 layers of people around them waiting to get drinks. Probably like 70 plus people sitting there. Dude walks up and goes, "Bar boy." Like snapped at me, and I turned around and I was like, "What do you want?" I've never like ever been mean to someone in a situation like that. I felt just like I had like a glass in my hand. I was like, I was about to club you with this thing. He's like, "Make me a drink." And I'm like, "That's what the bartenders are for." He goes, "No, you know how to make it. I seen you bartend over there." I'm like, "And I'm bar backing right now. I'm not making a drink. I'm not getting in their way." And he goes, "Can't you just figure it out?" And he like waved a card at me. I was like, "No, I'm not." Bartender, they were dope. They bought my dinner every night. So every night that I showed up and bar backed for them, they paid for my dinner outright because I made them a lot of money. Like, go faster. He was like, first off, fuck that guy. Made him wait like 30 minutes to get him a cocktail. But he was just sitting there tapping the card, just like losing his mind because like no one's told this dude no. I was so happy, but like that's the one person that has like made me boil with rage at a job, or just to be like, "All right, you son of a bitch, what do you want?" It's like,
well, it's almost an excuse in that sense to just be a dick when you have money,
because you can pay for it, you can get away with it,
and there's no because there's always a price that can be paid.
I'm not the kind of guy that like enjoys being the one to like go, "No, you can't do that." Like I don't like conflict. One of my past managers, his favorite thing was to say no. And when someone was mad, he'd go, he'd talk to him, and he'd walk down, just listen to him and go, "We're not doing that." His favorite thing was to just tell people to shut up and tell him no. And I was like, cool, we have a great dynamic. I'll try and calm him down. If that doesn't work, you're getting down here and you're kicking him out. Like,
you're gonna tap in.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people, I think it's just you can lose touch with reality. If you have a lot of money, which doesn't even have to be that much, you could have 300 grand a year.
Yeah.
And what that looks like, what you can do with that, I think you just lose touch with just being a person.
An age thing too. A lot of people have always been told customers right.
Yeah.
And that's quickly, I think, kind of changing in a good way.
Which it should.
Yeah, I think it's conditioned too many people to be like, if I scream and throw a temper tantrum as an adult, someone just like is going to fix it for me. Maybe they don't understand that we're doing it because like they're a literal nuisance and a toddler, and it's like it's easier to just get you out. But like, just like I can just demand what I want and you'll do it. And I love when people are like, "No, that doesn't work.
It's not how it works here."
You're like, more often than not, customers like in an industry are wrong about what's going on. Like, it's like, dude, we do this every day.
Yeah, I think we would be the ones to know.
No,
we're here all the time.
Not at all.
Yeah.
You give me what I want. You don't know anything. It's hilarious.
People are weird. Social skills and just being a decent person, it's easy to lose touch with that.
Like I tell people this a lot. Like, I can be okay at talking to people. Like, it's something I can be good at. I don't always enjoy doing it. Like, it depends. Like, being around and working with people, I wouldn't trade that for anything. I love it. But some days people really test that. If some days people really test just how much I enjoy what I'm doing. Maybe one cup of coffee short of, if I didn't have coffee, I probably wouldn't have handled the interaction well.
That's life at that level. Oh, this is just the money thing. Okay. I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. If somebody offered me, 300 grand just to fuck around, I would take that. But nobody's
fuck
gonna
yeah.
pass up money.
No, not at
And the
all.
people that say, Mr. Katop, do you remember him, Mr. Katop?
The funny thing about that is I literally ran into him the last time I was at the gym. I was like, oh shit, that's Katab. And him and I sat and talked for a while. He's
Oh,
like,
nice.
and then, fun fact, they're like almost always at Redwood Curtain.
Mr. Katop.
Yeah, and Olsen and like a
no
bunch
shit.
of them. Like my parents, almost every single time they go to Redwood Curtain, like
See
saw
somebody.
Olsen, saw Katab.
Oh,
Like,
damn.
yeah, they have their little meetups there.
Where I was going with that, he said something really profound one time. He said that the people that say money can't buy happiness are just flat wrong. It can. You can buy happiness. You can buy a lot of things with money. The one thing you can't buy with money is time. And that's your greatest asset.
I think he's a good example of someone that in a lot of ways I might not agree with him, but he is someone that I will listen to and someone that I will take that and be like, I'll chew on that. Because like I don't see him quite as far as the like Goggins path, but I think he leans further that way than I do.
Yes.
But he's still like,
well, he comes from a hard background.
Yes, I still think like he has good perspective. And I do respect him for that.
His parents were Egyptian in Kenya? I want to say he was Egyptian or something, but he was telling me, or told the class one time, that his dad, I believe, owned a small strip mall or something in LA, and during the Rodney King riots, they burned it down.
Yeah, okay.
I want to say I could be getting this so wrong. I'm drawn back. I think he told us this when I was in 7th grade. But something crazy like that.
The age range, like his age range,
would fit
relative to his parents. Would make sense for that.
So he's been through some stuff, and he does he still do his coffee business? Wasn't that a thing? Did he had like a coffee shop, or not a coffee shop, a coffee cart that he drove around? Why am I attributing that to him?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Like,
I'm gonna have to try to get him on now.
I know
we're talking about
he's still working with the school. Him and I just talked about it. I don't remember.
He's with not St. Bernard's. Still Barnum, isn't he there?
I don't remember. I thought he was still Eureka High, but I don't know where he's at. I know he's done kind of everything.
Yeah.
But he said he's a very busy guy, and so what we talked about.
So. I like that quote. Not because I think money should be your final pursuit or is at the top of everything, but I think it signifies that if we're being honest, you can do a lot with money.
Yes.
You can pay your bills, you can provide yourself a comfortable life, you can really attain freedom, which is my biggest thing with money, is that financial freedom. But the time that you sacrifice, you're never going to be 24 again. You're never going to be 20 again. You're never going to be 15 again. You have to make the most of your time.
Which matters to you more?
What path do you want to go down?
That's for you to decide. Full circle.
There's no wrong answer.
No. As unsatisfying as that can be.
It would be nice if someone could just say, hey
idiots,
do this, and this is going to happen, and life's going to work out, and you're going to be happy, and all the worry and all the strife is taken out of life.
One of my closest friends is like, when it comes to handling situations like that, we do it very, very differently from each other. He's very like by the seat of his pants. Just like, shit will work out. Fucking just like, stop worrying about it. It'll work out one way or another. And I'm like, I want to know how we're planning on doing this. When are we getting there? Like, what? Like, all of this shit. And he's just like, chill the fuck out. Obviously there's times where we balance each other out. And sometimes it's good that I was like, let's think a little logistically about this. But there's a lot of times where, something fun comes from, some good experience comes from just like being told to let go a little bit and not expect there to be an answer to that. And just trusting that like, it'll happen one way or another. You can't do shit about it.
It's good to have those people in your life.
Yeah.
It's good to have a balance to your personality. 100%. Friends like that are incredibly important.
I think friends that are different from you are incredibly important.
And friends that are also working towards something. That's been the biggest lesson in my life, is you have to surround yourself with people who align with you in not necessarily your pursuit, but your drive towards something.
Yeah.
If you want to get something out of life and you surround yourself with people who don't and who
Hmm.
are happy more or less being stagnant, it's gonna rub off on you.
Dude, there's such a good video about it. I don't know what podcast he was on. I think he was on Joe Rogan's podcast, but Joey Diaz. If you've ever
That's a
seen, like,
bad motherfucker, yeah.
yeah, dude.
Joey
So,
Diaz.
so he's talking about, like, he's like, you ever hang out with anybody that doesn't do nothing? How long do you hang out with them? You don't. He's like, I don't care if you wake up in the morning, you shoot heroin. Fuck it, you're doing something. You wake up and suck toes, you're doing something. Fuck it, I don't care. Like, he's crazy. They're talking about him popping, like, just casually popping like 500 milligram edibles just like on a flight. Like, this dude's insane.
Those stars of death.
Yeah, he's a walking chemistry experiment. But I think of that quote where it's just like, again, I don't give a fuck what you're doing. Just
Do something.
something, right? It's like, someone that does something is interesting. Someone that does shit is cool.
What I realized at a young, or not a young age, but what I realized in kind of a painful way is that you don't ever want to be the person that's not doing anything.
No,
that
that's a
always has time,
hard feeling.
that is always available for whatever. You don't want to be that guy. You gotta
It's fun in the abstract because it's like, cool, I get to, like,
have free time.
I have the option to do what I want, right? But then you realize, is like, these people will pass you by in doing something, and you see that passion, and then that doesn't trickle down to you. You know, you can learn more about, like, that topic from someone. But this is something I talk about with my friends, is like, we have this group of people that everyone has their own specialty, right? So when you all get together, you all have this different pool of knowledge to share with each other, and that's cool. That drives shit, because it's like, that's how you learn, right? I don't know about this, but you do. Let's talk about it, you know, like, and we can influence each other in that way. But if you don't have anything to bring to the table, then it's just like, you know,
You're the odd duck out.
Yeah, you feel like it's cool to be there, but at a certain point, you're like,
what do you have to add
what
that's
am I
of value?
doing? You know, like, not that, and not to say that, like, your interactions with friends have to be transactional, or like you have to bring some value, but you want to do that. Like, at least you should. I think you should.
Yeah.
You know, I feel better when I do.
Yeah. Again, not that it has to be a transactional relationship, but with friends, I want to lift up my friends. I want them to lift me up. I want us to be striving to reach new heights. And if you're the one that's just not doing anything and just hanging out and not doing any hobbies, not doing anything new, not trying anything different, well, where do you expect to go with that?
I've been there. That kind of relates to, you know, that feeling of like, I'm doing stuff, but I'm missing that something. And that something is that thing that I'm so passionate about that, like, when I'm not working or doing, I'm working on this thing, you know, like, I don't feel it as much anymore, but I still do every once in a while. Like,
it's almost like a hobby, but like something you could put time into that has a positive return on your life.
I was really happy when I was working out more last year, and I was playing guitar too. I picked up the guitar. Like, I always hang around with people that are musical. Like, you know, we can have these conversations about musical theory, and like, they're way over my head, and I'm just sitting there like a little kid, like, kicking my feet in the chair, like, oh, that's cool. Like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, but you're really excited about this, you know? And I, like, when I just, like, picked up the guitar every once in a while, like, I learned a couple songs, and it was cool. I tried to do it the other day. I didn't remember shit. But it was like, I felt good when I did that because it was just something I could do. Like, not even to be good at. Like, I think Kurt Vonnegut talked about that. He's like, I'm not doing this thing to be good at it. You're doing it for the sake of doing it and learning from it. Like, if you approach a hobby with the desire of being the best at it, kind of missing the point, you know? He's like, the beauty comes in the repetition and, like, the learning, that relationship that you have with yourself. I'm bastardizing the hell out of this quote. But, like, that's what his point was. Is like, I don't do this to be good. I do it because I enjoy it. The good is secondary to it. You're like, the skill is secondary to the enjoyment of the thing.
It's an effect of caring about it and working on it.
Yeah, it shouldn't be what you strive for, but you should just find the thing that you enjoy doing.
I think a lot of people struggle with that, myself included at various points in time, you know? Just it's hard. It's hard when you go to work and you put in your time and you feel obviously drained at the end of the day to then find some motivation to work on something else when you really just want to recharge for the next day. You want to
Yeah.
take that hour and watch Netflix, or you want to take that hour and just scroll, or you want to take that hour and just maybe sit there and read a book. You just want to decompress because you know you have to repeat the cycle tomorrow.
And it's easy to follow that train of thought. And the way I think of it is like that inertia, right? Like when I was consistent in the gym, going was second nature. It's like, yeah, duh, we're going, you know? And as I slowly slip out of that, it's not an instantaneous thing. It's a very gradual change. It started with not doing the cardio as much and just lifting. It's like lifting as much. And now it's like I'm barely going to the gym. And it's like, now that I'm not going to the gym anymore, I've readapted to that. And it's always better to go and like do the thing, you know, like you know that you can know that so profoundly, but
Enacting that.
in the moment, it's easier to just keep doing what you're doing. And like when it was the working out, it was so easy to go. Now it's just like it comes and goes so quickly, you know, that like ability to like keep doing it. But again, it's just like tomorrow, I just need to go. I just need to do it. I love it. I love it. I always feel so good after. I regret every time I don't go. I never regret going.
It's the momentum aspect.
Yeah.
And I think that is so huge for people in general. Just the hardest part is building the momentum, and the easiest part is stopping. But once you've got it, once you have it going, once the ball is rolling, just keep it going.
Kind of just drags you.
Because once you stop, to start it back up is a bitch.
And you think I would have known that having done that last year, right? Just like gotten my ass in shape and but one problem with that is like even when I document like part of the 75 hard was like taking pictures of yourself every day. So you can see this progress. And I didn't do it every day, but I did take pictures of myself like, you know, like every week. And mostly because I was waking up super early to bike before I did my internship. And I looked so fucked up in those pictures, like my hair sticking straight up. I looked mad. Every picture, I'm just sitting there in my underwear, like grumpy as hell, looking in the mirror. So I just stopped doing that every morning because I was like, these are just really bad pictures of myself. But I looked at those pictures and I was like, I could have lost my weight. Literally the leanest I've ever been. Like I started to see veins like on my abdomen. I was like, I haven't seen this in my entire lifetime. I thought I was getting like a hernia here. And then I was like, no, I just lost fat for the first time there that I've always had. And I look at those pictures now and I was like, damn, I looked pretty good. But at the time, I thought I looked like shit still. I was like, I still could have lost so much more. I'm just nitpicking at like the fat that I could lose. Now I'm looking at it, I'm like, I wish I could look like that right now. When will it be good enough? Is what the workout's showing me is like, when will I be happy with this? Will I ever be happy with this? Not content to where I stop doing it, but when will I ever be happy with what I've done there? I don't know if I will. That's the hard relationship I have with the gym, I think. And a lot of people do too.
Oh yeah, everyone can relate to that.
Yeah.
You never appreciate it in the moment. That's something I am constantly working on, and at times I feel like I never make progress.
So you get the right lighting and you have a pump in the right lighting, and then you're like, okay, this is pretty good right now. And then you go home and it's like, I should never even step foot in the gym again.
You're always chasing that pump. And what's the idea that you're
ridiculous.
never going to reach it because tomorrow's pump is always going to be better?
Yeah, I
and
guess.
you're chasing it.
I could do X amount more, you know, and it's like the same advice. I fall victim to it, but like the same advice that I give Dylan all the time. I gave Dylan. I can't follow. That's the hard thing. It's like, oh man, you can say whatever you want to other people, but because it doesn't involve you doing anything, you know? It's just your perspective. That's all you got. It's all you have to input, not any of the work, unfortunately.
It's so easy to give great advice, and it's so hard to actually practice what you preach.
Let's make a career on giving people advice. guess that's what like
People make a lot of money doing that. Life
you
coach.
got to go to school to do it.
Yeah.
Depending on the certification, you don't really have to go to school as much.
You can just, there are people, those motivational speakers that just make bank. I don't know if they have any degrees or anything.
Usually not.
You're just a motivational person.
Just talk.
Yeah.
As long as you're charismatic enough, fuck it. Yeah, like Tony Robbins. Tony Robinson is a good one. Eric, what's his name?
Weist? No, that's not Eric Weist.
No, it's Eric.
Thomas? E.T.?
Yeah, I think it's E.T.
E.T.
Yeah, people, E.T. do this. Like, he's in, like, if you look up those, like, motivational compilations on YouTube.
Shit, go to my YouTube. That's all. You don't actually have to go to my YouTube, but that's all it is. I watch those when I do cardio at the gym.
Yeah.
It's just motivational
there
videos.
Was, a channel. What was it called?
Motiversity?
The channel's called Gravemind. It uses, like, clips from anime and, like, cartoons and whatever. But it incorporates so many of those old... If you go up to go to the channel, and then go to their videos, the best one that stuck to me is it's most popular. The one that sticks to me, or like the one that really was like in my head, is, the Iron Mind. I watched that one so many times last year when I was having particularly hard times, like waking up and going, I don't have to do it today. I don't have to do it. I can't. I'm sore. I'm too busy.
Don't play because we'll get pulled on YouTube.
Yeah, but
I've already been down that road.
DMC.
YouTube.
Fiery DMC complaint.
God.
Yeah, I don't want.
I'll have to watch this though.
Yeah, I don't want to be the reason that happens.
I love motivational videos. That's my bread and butter.
It's a combination of them.
Yeah,
right? But it's like it's almost like gaslighting yourself. Yeah, like
it works.
You can do
it's
it.
effective.
You can do it both negatively and positively. And I forget that all the time because like some of my favorite music is like kind of sad music. You know, like it's kind of validating, but like it's really good. And you can do the same thing the other way. You can just make yourself listen to this shit and be like, yeah, that's true. And just go and do it. Like, it's hard, but you can do it, you know?
And the inclination for most people is to go negative. That's the easiest one, is to say, I can't do this because of this. I'm not enough for this. I'll never make it there. What is...
it's Tony Robbins. I was going to say,
yeah.
Tony Robbins is not...
Tony Robinson.
I was like, Tony Robbins is not
it's
like
Tony
5'4".
Robbins.
He's a big dude.
Yeah, those guys... The power of being motivational.
Wow.
What is he worth? $600 million.
Way richer than I thought.
6'6", damn.
$600 million. Oh my god, dude.
You Googled his weight, 75 kilograms, 165 pounds. Wow, that's a lot lighter than I thought.
Whoa, okay.
165 pounds at 6'6"?
6'7" at 165. He's super lean.
Yeah. I'm probably a $180 something right now, and I'm 6'1".
Yeah, the most I weighed when I started actually trying to put like muscle mass back on was like 175, like 180. I've cycled back to where I think I've lost like a fair amount of muscle and put some fat back on, and I'm sitting around like mid to high 170s right now, I think on average, but I haven't weighed myself in a couple weeks.
I was in a frat up at OSU.
Which one?
I got up to 210 because all I was doing was drinking beer, eating burgers, partying.
What were you in?
I was Delta Upsilon.
Okay. I was like, what's the odd chance that we were in the same one? That would have been a funny moment. Yeah.
But that's all. I mean, I was living my life. I was having a great time, but you just gotta find the balance.
It's fun, dude. But like, I could compared to how I really don't like
I drink now. It's just a beer or two here on the podcast. Is the only time I drink.
I'll have maybe a couple of drinks per week and average maybe like one a week, right? When I was in the fraternity, I drank so much. It was stupid. So bad for you. Like, I just remember we would just pass around a handle for hours. Just go through it. All right, where's another one? Like, you just go. And I was like proud of that fact. And then I was like, damn, this is terrible. Like, this is awful for me, man. I feel much better now that I don't drink as much anymore. Shocker.
Yeah, surprising, right?
Not drinking class 1 carcinogen every day is actually
pretty good for you.
Beneficial for your health, both mentally and physically. Fun fact.
Yeah, drinking in college, it's a lot of fun, but it's weird that it's the culture is.
Oh,
we're
it's
gonna
just
get
like
fucked up.
I don't know how many times I heard someone, and I said this myself too. Like, it's not alcoholism as long as you're in college, right? Like, it doesn't count.
Yeah.
It's just being like, no, that's just purely
And people
delusional.
talk about blacking out like it's a badge of honor. Oh, I blacked out last night. It was such a crazy party.
So many times. It's not a good thing, but it was fun. I would never do any of it again.
We've come full circle. It's back to that, you're sacrificing maybe feeling well tomorrow and maybe something longevity-wise. Yeah, for the moment, for a great memory, for a fun time.
As we've gotten older, there's much better ways to do that rather than blacking out and doing it. But, I think you have to have your harsh blackouts and get carried up the stairs of your 2-story apartment by your roommates a couple times to.
It's a good experience. Yeah.
There's a couple of times where we had this fucking divider in the middle of the street. It was already a narrow street. We lived in a family neighborhood in my second apartment in a pseudo frat house because you couldn't have an actual frat house. So there was 6 of us. Technically 6 on the lease. One dude paid for the lease and never once lived with us. He lived there for one night and then never came back. So he paid for his room the entire year. God bless you, man. He saved our rent. But we fucked that place so badly. But we had a divider with trees in the middle. My roommates just heard someone fall into the trees one night, and they came back out, and I was just asleep in the. I was just getting sick in the trees, so they just dragged me. I had bruises on my ankles because they didn't even pick me up. They just dragged me up the stairs, so I kicked every step on the way up, and I just wake up how'd I get here? And they wake up and they're all just
yeah, thanks
suck.
for that.
It was mutual. We all did it. Together.
It's memories, it's for better or worse.
Really memories because I don't remember.
Yeah, that's an aspect, right?
It's memories through other people.
But that's for better or worse. That's just part of the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Is you're going through that.
It was the most fun thing you'd never do again.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Tyler, this was badass, man.
Yeah.
We've been here 3 hours.
Yeah, holy shit.
Yeah, we can wrap this piece up.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Do you want to plug anything? Plug your social?
I don't have social.
I respect that.
Yeah,
I respect the people that don't plug.
Usually, there's that whole rant, right, where it's oh, follow me on this. I do this sometimes.
Here I am on TikTok. Here's my Twitch. Here's my.
This is my first podcast, and I just posted on my Instagram account, for the first time a week ago. So
okay.
We're making some.
We're building back in.
We're getting back into it, but nothing to plug really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this was a hell of a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, dude, I'm happy to catch up. I hope to do it again, or even
we'll have to do it again now.
Just hang out.
This was a blast, really.
Yeah.
All right.
It was a good ass time.
Thanks, man.
Awesome. Thank you.